and okay, and public image, because they're biggies and we need them every year. And I invited all of my lieutenant governors who have not zoomed in yet, but that's okay. And I also invited some club presidents, sitting club presidents, so we could get their ideas on what this whole plan moving forward, because it will affect them and their president-elect. So I'm thank you for being here and for hopefully reviewing the documents we've already set up, and looking forward to a good morning of planning, strategizing. There you go. That's the word. Thanks.
Lee Butler, who used to be in our district, a great planning person, he called it strategery.
That could work as well. I asked Jeff to co-facilitate with me, because if you don't know this, Jeff Weinrack heads up the strategic planning cadre for the district. And so they've come up with a great plan for helping clubs do what we're about to do.
Is cadre French for a bunch?
Yeah.
I think it's a little more than a gaggle.
Oh, okay, all right.
With big sticks.
Yes.
I think in our area it should be strategic el grupo strategio.
Exactly. The other thing, I've asked Richard Haas, our DGN right now, to help moderate this, not moderate, to help keep track of how we're doing as a district as we move forward on this. So because it will affect the next year as well. And he has graciously agreed to do that. So thank you, Richard, for doing that. Thank you, Jeff, for setting this up and putting it together. And thank you all for being here. Your input is valuable to us, believe me.
John, I don't have a cadre though.
Okay.
I'll be in your cadre. I'll meet Julia Childs.
How about it? I'll be in your posse.
We thought about calling it a coven, but then we decided against it.
Coven, yeah.
There's some there's something appealing about that. It's a little mystical.
Okay, so does everyone know each other?
There's Debbie.
If not, if so, then we don't need to spend time on introductions. Okay. Okay. All right. But what we should do before we get into the meat of the program is I had sent out proposed ground rules for how the morning is going to go. It's important that whatever ground rules we set, that we adhere to them. We've got a lot to cover in 4 hours. So I guess I wanted to ask if there were any questions or any suggested changes to the ground rules. Okay. So one of the ground rules is that silence is consensus. So if there's silence, then that must mean yes. And one really important part of this is that oftentimes in Zoom meetings, people will, for whatever reason, use the chat. In a forum like this, it won't be helpful because everything that you all come up with, we all need to agree to or discuss. And if you put something in the chat, we may miss it. Or how are we gonna, so unless there's a particular reason, any ideas or suggested changes, just unmic and speak. So it'll be an open dialogue rather than using the chat, if that's okay with everyone. And the deal with consensus, and this is hard sometimes, is that someone may propose something that you're not thrilled about. So let's say you have a counter to it and we discuss it. And we get to a point where we feel like we have general agreement. The key is that those of you who, let's say, were not initially thrilled with the idea, the question is, can you live with it? Meaning you can go to sleep at night saying, look, I expressed my point of view. I heard the other points of view. Everyone heard mine and respected my idea. We discussed it. We looked at the pros and cons, and I can live with it, which just means if we have to go to the zone or to RI and present the plan, you can present it and not say, well, but if they'd only listened to me, or I never really agreed with this, something like that. So it really is important because there's a different bar between I love this idea versus I can live with this idea, I can accept it. And so the bar for us is I can accept it. And if you can't accept it, then you need to speak up and say, no, I can't. And then we continue to discuss it. And if it's taking too long, we just table it and we come back to it later in the agenda. So does everyone understand that?
Yes.
All right. Why don't we go ahead then and review the agenda? I'm just checking my phone because every once in a while I may get a text saying, hey, Jeff, what's the Zoom login? None so far. So we'll talk about kind of the expected outcomes of this. And then Governor Bob will give us kind of a state of the district, which is kind of how things are going now, which is really important. What's our trajectory? Are we moving in a favorable direction? Do we have some challenges? So Bob will kind of give a state of the district. And then we'll go over what's called the Rotary Action Plan. They call it an action plan, although it's really not an action plan, but those 4 priorities for Rotary, because that's important for us to align to. So we'll look at that. And then we get into the crux of the meeting, which is to go through page by page of the current plan, which John sent out. And we will go through it page by page, and we will review it, discuss it, revise it. And when we finish, then we'll talk about next steps, which includes Richard and how the plan is going to be implemented, monitored, things like that. And then we will end. So any questions about the agenda? And if you're wondering, the way my computer stuff is set up, I'm typing over here and you all are over here. So don't worry about that. Any questions about the agenda? Okay. John, did you want to talk about expected outcomes?
Sure. We have our current plan. Everybody should have that, and that I was one of the main reasons that didn't get out timely last year. Bob sent it to me for review, and for some reason I took some time to review it, and finally got it back to him and said, yeah, it's good, let's go. So that's one of the reasons why Jeff and I said, why don't we just amend it as we're going? And that way we have the finished document, and Richard and I can sign it and get it to Donette to be posted on the website. Maybe not immediately, but soon thereafter. And my expected outcomes is that I've been asked by several key people on the district to review each of the goals that we have here, and we have several objectives and they all have goals. Some of them have multiple goals, and I've been asked to come up with numerical values for these goals and outcomes. And I'm hoping to do that so that we can take this and say, for this objective, here's our goal, and move forward. So, and it will be a workable plan that because we all agree on it and with consensus, as Jeff has already explained, it will represent our district well and serve our district well as we move forward. This is the third year that we're looking at this plan, and I believe I wasn't available 2 strategic planning meetings ago because I wasn't in this position at that time. I was going to serve as an AG again. But anyway, I believe it's the third year of a 3-year plan, and so we need to see if we want to continue it or if we want to revise and that kind of a thing. Thanks.
Which is another reason why it's important to have Richard on, because if you all feel like it's worth kind of continuing what we're doing with adjustments, then it'll have additional years tacked on to the end, which means Richard and whoever will follow him will have the same opportunity. Okay, any questions about that? And John is right, we'll have this posted up on the website. It'll be worth sharing it with the assistant governors and the club presidents so that they can align their plans to this as well. Oh, that does one other thing real quick. So if you review the document, there are 2 types of objectives that the previous planning groups came up with. The first set that you'll see are ones that are solely within the purview of the district, like better communication to the clubs. Things like that, where the clubs don't have a role in executing the work to accomplish that objective. So the first 3 are like that. The last set are ones that the group felt were kind of a combination of the district working with the clubs. So for example, net membership growth. So for those objectives, we want your input, but there may be an opportunity to then have a follow-up with the clubs to see, number one, are they accepting of those? And if not, what adjustments need to be made? But those would not be achievable without club involvement. Does that make sense?
Right. So Jeff, would you see that follow-up occurring? It's something like a PETS meeting, or?
It could.
Okay.
It could, or it could be through the president's councils or.
Okay.
But yeah, I just want to make sure you understood that second set, the notion of that original group was that the execution of that part of the plan was kind of a collaboration between the district and the clubs. Okay. Why don't we turn it over then to Governor Bob for State of the District?
Thank you, Jeff. And I am really thrilled to be with everybody today. We've been making some great additions to our team here, our district team here in the last couple weeks. Noel Bartle is, I believe, has stepped forward to become the LG in the East. That's awesome. Eric is going to be our information chair, our public image chair next year. So that's awesome. I'm great. He's going to be great in that position. I'm really excited about that. We've got several assistant governors, new assistant governors that have stepped forward. So we're moving in the right direction there. So let me just share with you what has been happening over the last year. When I went through governor-elect training, we were told that this is more, instead of having individual years, every governor having their own year, it's really a continuum. And the analogy was a relay race where each governor hands off the baton to the incoming governor and they proceed on the same race. And we're sort of crossing, going through turn 3, heading down to turn 4, and I can see John down there getting anxious about me handing the baton off to him. And so let's look at what's happened so far this year. So District Governor-elect John, District Governor nominee Richard, all Lieutenant Governors, Assistant Governors, past District Governors, District Committee Chairs, Rotarians, and distinguished guests. It's an honor and privilege to report to you today that District 5520 is moving forward and growing in many aspects as we emerge from the pandemic. After the initial effects of COVID-19 on our membership, we are experiencing a growth in our numbers. As of the end of last calendar year, we have 2,044 total members. That reflects a net growth of 11 new members, even after clubs corrected their membership stats in preparation for the January billing. We lost one club last year, Elephant Butte, leaving us with 66 total clubs. Members in Southwest Texas are in the process of starting a satellite club of Presidio, and we have the possibility of new Rotary clubs in Socorro and other areas. We are equally strong in our finances. This year, we elected to delay an improved increase in our dues, but to reduce our dues by 1/2 to equitably return a significant surplus to our members due to less in-person events in the previous year. We'll continue to stay within our budget this year as well. Our district training team consistently delivers quality programs that inform and inspire all our members. We conducted a district assembly refresher focusing on club membership, public image, and foundation operations, all recorded to be available to any Rotarian. Our Rotary Leadership Institute convened its first session of training in October, continued with a session 2 in January, and will conclude its first institute this year in March. Past District Governor Dan and his team deliver the highest quality Rotary and leadership content, so much so that districts from around the country send many of their members to attend. Incoming training chair Carla Spaniel, with the help of our current trainer Jeff Weinrich, and our training team are putting the finishing touches on our AGLG in-person training held this year in Ruidoso. They will also conduct a top-notch President-elect training seminar virtually in March, preparing all of our incoming presidents continue leading their clubs in service, fellowship, and membership. I believe our efforts to improve the effectiveness of communications within our district have been fruitful. The Yucca, our updated newsletter published by our incoming editor, Jennifer Anserez, refreshed our image around the district, keeping all readers informed of club activities and accomplishments. I witnessed regular improved communications around our district through our thoughtful use of emails, our website, Facebook, traditional mail, virtual and phone conversations. Our AGs and LGs work closely with our club leaders, keeping them informed of our district initiatives and issues. Councils of presidents have provided yet another way clubs communicate their successes and solicit partnerships. Our district public image chair, Arturo Barrio, enlisted the help of President Eric Collins in keeping our social media channels current with action photos of our clubs and our members. They have helped clubs update the brand to be compliant with Rotary International branding policy. Our foundation committee, ably led by past District Governor Linda Woodward, has worked closely with clubs to keep our global and district service projects tracking well to completion. The committee kept our Polio Plus work in the forefront, and as a result, many clubs conducted successful World Polio Day activities to keep our communities aware of Rotary's progress and raise crucial funds to further our efforts to finally eradicate this world of this dread disease. Empowered with district funds, clubs have successfully executed many service projects and awarded scholarships, even while dealing with the realities of COVID-19. With the constant encouragement of our foundation committee, our clubs continue to donate to the foundation, and we are tracking to exceed our contributions this year, our contribution goal yet again this year. Our youth programs, overseen by our chair, Tony Pino, have significantly been affected by the pandemic. Based on many factors, we had to cancel this year's arrival camp. We continue to prosecute our youth exchange program, hoping that our Rotary International won't cancel it too. Led by Interact Chair, past District Governor Dan Garrison, our Interact clubs continue to meet and conduct service projects. Several Rotary clubs are in the process of starting additional Rotary Interact clubs. We also had a very successful district blood drive, which resulted in 260 pints of very needed blood donated. We will recognize the leading clubs in the area at the district convention. Our district continues to struggle with several challenges, however. Most clubs relate to me their frustration with getting members to return and participate in club activities as the pandemic wanes. They believe members are reticent to meet in person and dislike the virtual meeting format. Clubs must evaluate the advantages and limitations of in-person and virtual meetings and weigh the many costs of each. Our district membership growth is severely hindered by our retention challenges. Although we have welcomed around 120 new members in our first 6 months of this Rotary year, we've only grown by a net 11. This is indeed very good and not so good news, and I believe our pressing challenge. Also, we have several district leadership positions to fill. AGs in the North, Central, South, and Southeast action teams, although just in the last day, we've filled several of these. Lieutenant Governor and the Central Action Team and our historian. We do need a new historian. We must continue to encourage our volunteers to step into these additional leadership opportunities. So fellow Rotarians, I'm happy to summarize this report in saying that District 5520 continues to grow in numbers and service and excels at changing lives locally and around the globe. Thank you, John. Now I'll turn it over to you.
So we're ahead of schedule, which is great. So we have a few minutes. Or any questions for Bob?
Jeff, this is Debbie. Yes, I have a couple of questions. I saw the foundation reports that were sent out in preparation for this meeting, but I did not have a chance to compare year 1 to year 5. How are we doing on foundation giving is one question. The second question, did you say that Eric Collings is our new public image chair?
Incoming.
Incoming public image chair, okay. And did you say that PETS was going to be virtual?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Linda, will you comment on our foundation giving this year?
From you.
I'm seldom at a loss for words. Sorry. Debbie, we're short right at the moment in comparison, but we're short always at this point in time. It seems like the race is always on toward the end. So with the help of Tom Walker, I've been going through numbers in comparison over the last 5 years and comparing closely where my deficit is. Now, I don't like to throw the baby out with the bathwater right at the moment, but we've got some dollars that aren't being credited to us right at the moment from RI. And I'm allowing Tom, because he's got a bigger gun than I do, and don't take that the wrong way, guys, but he's stronger than I am with RI. So he is tracking with them what is wrong. So we're not being credited right at the moment. So I think once those credits, we know what the dollars are, they acknowledge what the dollars are. Once we get that information on paper, I think we're going to be right where Governor Bob thinks we should be and we need to be. The important thing that we're trying to do is guarantee where Richard will be his starting year. Because as you're aware, and I'll try not to be long-winded, but as you're aware, I'm being asked to spend down. Now, when do they want that to start? I don't know. They just told me to do it. So I did it for my district. So I know what I'm starting with next year. I know what I'm going to be starting with projection-wise for Richard's year. I need that money in the bank. So we're on target, but don't stop with your clubs, please. We need our clubs to remember endowment is what grows our DDF funds. That's the only thing that will allow that fund to grow and grants to happen in the district at this point in time. Enough said. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Any other questions for Bob? I have a question. So when, I forget if it was this year or last year, Bob, but when we added kind of a district service projects committee led by Earl Greer, do you have a sense of how that's going? You're on mute. Sorry.
Bob, you're muted.
Bob, you're on mute. Sorry.
Sorry, yeah, I apologize. It's not, to be quite honest, among us, we've had a service project committee for a number of years, and Earl's been at the helm for at least 2 of those years, and I've encouraged him to be involved in the Rotary service day of service, and he has not really been involved in that. So I'm, to be honest with you, it's not going well. We're having good service projects within the district, but we don't really have an active district service project committee.
Got it. Thank you.
Can I
Linda, go ahead.
Jeff, can I interject on that one?
Yes, please.
Okay. In his defense, we had gotten together to try to put something together on day of service. And of course, we all kind of huddled back in at that point in time to where clubs were not going out again. So if the last 2 years have not been go out into your communities. So we've got some things on paper for when we can get out into our communities for a day of service that would knock your socks off, that came from RI, but the timing has just been off, unfortunately.
Thank you. Any other questions for Bob? Okay, moving on. Thank you, Bob. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to take a quick flyover of the Rotary Action Plan. There are there's a file and there's a document. We'll take a look at both. And if you don't have them, John or I will upload them to the section of Club Runner. So give me 1 second. Okay, can you all
Jeff,
see?
while you're doing, Jeff, good morning, everyone, and this is Ophelia. I was trying to get my microphone opened while we were talking about district service project. I was not able to until now. So I'm assuming everybody can hear me, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I have a proposed district project, but it has to be reviewed with District Governor Rush first. But he assigned me as an environmental ambassador for our district. And as it happened yesterday, I met with the people that started this project across the border. And there is a project that is coming up on April the 24th, which is the river cleanup. The Rio Grande River covers most of his territory. And if we don't have a date for a day of service for our district, that could be pretty well be a good service project because it will benefit, is focused on the environment. A lot of young Rotarians are very excited about the environment. So that could probably be taken into consideration, but I'm going to send, Bob, I'm going to send you all this information from our meeting yesterday with the district and 4110, right? 4110? And 4110, I'll send you the notes and that could be taken as a project for everybody to do together. But I'm sorry, I'm a little late with the comment. I just couldn't
No,
open my.
and my
Right.
suggestion, Ophelia, is either for any of the emails that John has sent out or me, I would do a reply all and let people know, especially the ones who are not on today. So just as an FYI, because that we may not add that to the plan, but people should know about it.
Mhm. Okay,
Great, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, can you all see the website?
Yes.
Okay, so this is what they're calling the action plan in Rotary.org. I would suggest you all take a look at it if you haven't. It's got the 4 priorities, and if you click on the learn more, you can get a little more information on each one. For us, and there's a document I'm going to bring up, but this is kind of our it's Rotary's view of true north for us. Like, what should we be focusing on? And one of the questions we should ask ourselves, and also in conjunction with the clubs, is do we have a balanced approach? Like, do we have effective activities and strategies for each of the 4? Because if we have, let's say, 3 of the 4 and not the 4th, that kind of provides the obvious opportunity for where we should consider investing additional resources. Does that make sense?
Mm.
So this is really helpful, but what's even more helpful, and you can get to it, there's a PowerPoint presentation you can download. And again, if you're a lieutenant governor, this is great to show to the clubs, maybe for an assembly, but there's also the flyer. And I'm going to bring up the flyer because it has a little bit more detail. So again, you just download it here and it brings up this. So it's got this very nice vision statement, which we've gone through before, very powerful. I really like it because it has 4 words that you can kind of take out of it and make it kind of like a mini vision statement that kind of reinforces really what all this is about. But then you've got this. So these are the 4 priorities, but under each one, there's kind of suggested key areas, right? So this has a little bit more detail, and I'm going to keep this document open. If we ever need to like go back and say, hey, Jeff, can you bring up the Rotary documents? We can take a look. But this even provides more considerations for each of the 4 priority areas. And again, this would be relevant to us at the district level and also relevant to clubs at the club level.
Jeff, how did you get to that document? Is that in my Rotary?
It's right here. So in the Rotary Action Plan webpage, it's the Action Plan flyer.
Okay.
There's other documents here too. I would take a look at all of them, but this flyer is the one for today that I think is the most useful because we can kind of use it as like a checklist. That makes sense. So again, if you just take a look at this, increasing our impact, some key examples and key areas, expanding our reach, enhancing participant engagement, and increasing our ability to adapt. And kind of like what John and Bob were saying, this was developed a couple of years ago. And I think it was really novel when Rotary came up with this. It would not surprise me if maybe next year this gets tweaked a little bit, just because they typically do. But for us, this is still kind of the Rotary strategic direction. So for us, the intent is to align, right?
Right.
Do we fall under this, and how well? John, do you have a question or input?
Just a comment. I'll let you know if it changes because typically it does so at International Assembly, and that will be in a couple of weeks. The 7th of February it actually begins. So
Yeah, for instance, at my International Assembly, we became aware that our president really was focusing on those first 2, increase our impact and expand our reach. That's what he was really focusing on this year. Although we have 4, his major push was in those 2 areas.
Interestingly, I think because of COVID, this building a culture of research and innovation and willingness to take risk. I think we've been affected by the need to make change in a reactive sense. So, you know, some of these may not have been prominent at the time, but they kind of became prominent, you know. And John, if at assembly they do make any changes, I think because this is just happening now, it may be worth sharing with the team and saying, hey, everyone, they did make some tweaks. Do we, as the kind of the planning team, feel like we need to make probably little tweaks to our plan to adjust? Because hopefully this is not going to get overhauled.
Right, right.
Yeah. So again, this is going to be open in the background at all times. So if you just want me to bring it up, so you want to take a look at it, just let me know and I will bring it up. Any questions before we open up the document? And by the way, we will take a break kind of in the middle of our document review and revision. So we will do that. Any questions about this? And by the way, again, for LGs and AGs, this is really great to reinforce the clubs because they don't, I mean, no offense, but first of all, they may not know about this. Secondly, if they do, they may not understand how to think about these and how to align what they want to accomplish to this. So I think this is really good information for LGs and AGs to reinforce.
So Jeff, it's Debbie.
Yes.
I have a question. I can think of a couple of examples that I think our club did that are representative of create new channels into Rotary. But what does that really mean?
I'll tell you what I think it means, but I'd love to hear from others. But things like the connection with Toastmasters, like how do we leverage other groups that can kind of come into Rotary that may not have? So I think this is more like strategic partnerships and leveraging those. And I know we're talking like, and Ophelia's on, we're talking about how we can partner with Toastmasters in a way that they can become Rotarians through a partnership. I think that's what they're talking about with creating new channels into Rotary.
I would also add that I think the increased ways that we can start new clubs, different new club modes is reflected in this new channels into Rotary as well. E-clubs, service-oriented clubs, passport clubs, lots of increasing the flexibility of being a Rotarian.
And probably Rotaract also.
Yes.
Rotaract, yeah. Yeah,
Most
Rotaract.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions about this? Okay. All right. So if you can all see this, this is the current plan. It has 7 objectives. The first 3 are district objectives, and then the next 4 are district/club objectives. We'll update the language up here that we did another review today. So we will change that. But again, part of what we want to think about is this plan going to be effective beyond 2024? I don't know if we need to discuss that right now. I think we'll kind of figure that out as we go through the objectives. Okay. And again, hopefully you had a chance to take a look at this before today, but if not, we'll just take a minute. District objective 1, cultivate a culture of kindness and respect based on the 4-way test. So again, this is at the district level. That's for us. We have a goal, 80% or more highly satisfied with our culture, measured through tools including a 360-degree review and club member feedback by the end of the 22-23 Rotary year. Underneath each objective and goal are strategies and initiatives. So that may also change, right? So the goal may change. I mean, all of this may change. The objective, the goal, the time frame, and kind of the key initiatives that we should consider. So any thoughts about, before we get into the detail, the objective and the goal, including do we need to extend beyond 22-23?
I had one question about that because underneath that initial goal is a second goal. And I wondered if that second goal there actually is included in that top goal.
Yeah. Let me do this. Increase home. So it's interesting because I remember when we worked on this, there was a group that thought that there ought to be a second goal. And they wanted it, and thank you for reminding me because I missed it, that they wanted it expressed. So it could be a sub goal, but they wanted to emphasize this notion about increased involvement. So that, yes, that's up to us. We can either just call it like a sub goal or like it's part of this. As you notice, there's no measure for this. It just says increased involvement. It was just something that the group wanted expressed in the plan.
And my other question for that same goal is the emphasis on increased involvement in activities or the improved culture?
Can you, I didn't quite understand. Can you rephrase or re-ask?
Sure. To me, it seems like the goal of increased involvement in district activities. And again, I wonder about that from a district level. Is that the main emphasis, or is the main emphasis to improve the culture?
So speaking on behalf of the group that came up with this, as I
Yeah.
recall, it was the second, meaning
Okay.
if we increase involvement in district activities, that will reinforce or demonstrate the improved culture that we're trying to accomplish here. So that was more like a tactic to improve what it is we're looking at here. That was the implication of the language.
Thank you.
Jeff, when we talk about increased involvement, who or what is getting more involved in district activities? Increase who's involved in the district activities?
Right.
Do you remember?
I do. It was the district leadership team or the district committees, the people that were serving in district roles. So I think the notion was, I think that if we're trying to improve this culture, and again, it's up to you all if you want to keep it, change it, drop it. But I think the notion was that increasing our participation in, and again, it's not called out specifically, but if we increase that and we do it in a sincere way, that it would reinforce this culture that we are trying to see realized. That's what I recall. Again, that was 2 years ago, but that's what I recall.
Jeff, this is Noelle. Would this be more of an objective for the goal? Would that be a better
It could
header?
be, or a sub goal, if we go back to what John was thinking, which is maybe it's one of these strategies and initiatives underneath this overall goal.
And Jeff, as I read this, to me, it's more of a district and club objective. And the second goal, especially, it would be important to put some focus on making sure the clubs are increasing their involvement in district activities, that we get more club members to participate in the district club officer training sessions, for example, that we get more clubs to participate in pets and in RLI. I was going to ask the question when Bob spoke. I know we've offered 2 sessions of RLI this year, and we will be offering the 3rd session soon. How many people participated? Did we have any new graduates of all 3 RLI sessions? I think it's important to include the clubs in this objective.
Okay, so this is really interesting. And if I'm looking, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the only person on the meeting right now that was part of this other than me was you, Bob. Is that right?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so feel free to jump in here. But here's what I think the group came up with when they came up with this objective, because this is a district objective. is that the district needs to do this. And if successful, it will then kind of permeate to the clubs once the district has that culture in place. So when it was originally developed, the reason why it's not one of the other objectives, it was kind of a combination of district and clubs, is that the people that came up with that said, the district should do it first. And then if we are successful, it will become easier to kind of have that culture kind of cascade down to the clubs, if that's appropriate. Bob, does that ring a bell?
Yeah, I think that you hit around the head there, Jeff, that we sort of leading by example. The district leaders, promote four-way test in everything we do, and that should permeate down into the clubs as well.
So I'm gonna,
Can
I am
I-
sorry, go ahead.
No, can I ask a question? I guess since I wasn't involved, I guess I just don't understand like the objective. Are we saying the district isn't kind? I mean, if we have to tell Rotarians to be kind, I guess I have a problem being a Rotarian. I didn't think we were unkind as a district. That kind of, I can understand the respect based on the four-way test. I understand that. And there's a lot in here that revolves around our bylaws, even from an RI standpoint, but this cultivate a culture of kindness. If we have to tell each other to be kind, I don't know, that kind of doesn't sit well with me. But maybe I just am looking at this in a different manner than y'all mean it.
Linda, at the time, 2 years ago, that was our leadership's thought, was not that we were unkind, but we were to promote that, but just promote it as a way of life. And we all talk about the four-way test, and you've seen that in my letters in the newsletter, is that we don't always, none of us are perfect.
No, we're human
None of
beings.
us are perfect. We should strive to live by the four-way test. But I know I had seen in emails and comments in my club and other clubs that many times we violate that grossly.
Well, of course, we're human beings, and I think we behave that way. We see this in our work environment. We see this in our daily lives, but I don't think Rotary is meant to be, we can't monitor people that way. We have to, that's what the four-way test is supposed to do. And if we become that stringent, I'm afraid we will lose people. We don't send this out to clubs, do we? I never saw it. I never saw this document before.
This is posted on our website. This is our strategic plan.
Well,
There's one other thing to think about. And again, this is back when we did this 2 years ago. If I recall, there was a sense that when you ask clubs, what do you think about the district? The response was mixed. Like, oh yeah, they come in and they tell us what to do and so on. And if I recall, part of why we had this measure of the 80% or more highly satisfied is because at the time, the feelings that clubs had about the district were mixed. And the sense was that if we do this well, and again, this is what I think the sense of the group was, if we do that well, the clubs will feel better about how the district is working with them and all of that. So I think there was a connection to, because if I recall, we actually did a survey of the club leadership before we had the meeting. And the feedback from the clubs, it wasn't totally negative, but it was mixed. It was like, yeah, whatever, district, powers on high. So I think that's what drove this whole objective number one.
I've never seen it. I never seen it until just now, but I think I like it. I personally like it. If anything, if you want to even add to kindness, maybe culture of cooperation and kindness, and I will probably go broader. But yes, because I've talked to several people around, and you're right, Jeff. Some people see the district like up there, somewhere up there at the top.
Well, maybe I'm just looking at this wrong, because nobody else is piping up. So maybe it's just me. So I've said my piece. I'll be quiet.
Well, one thing we may want to consider, because again, times have changed. We didn't really do a club survey recently to get a sense of whether the club leadership feels better or worse, so we really don't have recent feedback. It is good that we've got a few club presidents on, because you may be able to give us some insight. But as an example, one thing that we could consider is maybe change cultivate to reinforce, something that maybe suggests that we feel like we have a pretty good culture, but we need to maintain it or reinforce it, or some word that kind of suggests we want to continue if we feel like maybe it doesn't need to be cultivated.
Yeah, but if you use enforce, you go back to the same thing, because they see the district as a policing entity. And what leave it cultivate is calling more into cooperation, and we're here for a good cause. And I think it just has to start. I think it opens up a good feeling about it.
So I'm curious, because Eric and Willis, you're both current presidents, or you were president last year?
I'm the current president.
Right. And Willis, what about you? It was last year?
I'm past, but I'm kind of acting right now.
Okay. So since we didn't do a survey, like we did a couple of years ago, does this register that at the club level, there may be this perception of the district that we can help address?
I think in the past there probably was, but right now I think folks are just trying to continue to be part of the club. So I think that's just, our club is struggling, just trying to find a place to eat. And I think we finally figured that out yesterday. But I think the clubs mainly have bigger fish to fry right now, membership, that kind of stuff. But in the past, I do know that kind of was a perception.
Oh, and Carla also, because you're also either a current or immediate past. So feel free to jump in here too.
I don't really know if my club really considers the district. And I think that's common in a lot of the clubs. It's an afterthought that people don't really associate what we do on the day-to-day with the district. I mean, I am so entwined in things that go on at the district level that I don't think about it. It just I'm the one who tells my club what's going on at the district level, but I don't really think they think about it on a day-to-day basis. But I wouldn't say that there's a conception that it's the ivory tower so much. I think it's more of they're not really thinking about it at all.
Right. The clubs are very internally focused. And, I would bet you if you surveyed the membership, very few members read the Rotary magazine, and even fewer members read the district newsletter. I hate to say that, but they're just so busy. They're just so busy that they have enough challenges at the club level that they don't even think about what's going on at the district. And maybe I'm saying that because I'm in the North area and we're just so far removed geographically, and we're so far removed from each other that every club is very independent.
Same down here. And I don't think they thought I was unkind. Was I, Debbie?
Right.
So, so if this survey was done a couple of years ago, and it was totally a different atmosphere everywhere 2 years ago. I wonder if we could do this survey again.
Well, we could, except it would have been, I mean, ideally, we would have had that survey and the results for today.
Mm,
Well, and this objective is stating that we're going to do a survey at the end of 22, 23.
mm,
And that's when we hope to get this 80% or more highly satisfied.
yeah.
But again, all of this is up for review. Eric, you've got your hand raised. Go ahead.
So something that we're dealing with at the district conference is we're not getting responses. We sent out an email asking about club responses to an in-person survey. We got 6 clubs to respond. I think before we have a survey, we need to tackle the objectives below this one with
Right.
increasing communication within the district before we can effectively run another survey, because right now no one is participating. It doesn't seem to be an important part of their day-to-day, and until we can address that through these other strategies, a survey right now I'm not sure is going to be very effective.
Okay, so we have a couple, this is excellent discussion. This is exactly what John and I were looking for. So we have a number of options here, including holding off and coming back, right? Because we want to keep the flow going. But the objective itself, we can either keep, change, or get rid of. If we get rid of it, everything underneath it either goes away or it falls under different objectives. Or even if we keep the objective, the goal may change, how we measure. So we may decide we don't need to do the 360 review or so everything here, we haven't even gotten to the initiatives yet, but my feeling is we should only get to them once we've determined what we want to do with all of this language here.
Right. Could we,
Can I ask John and Richard how they feel about it?
yeah, what would happen if we changed cultivate to continue?
That's-
My-
that's
My
very-
suggestion is that the goals become the objective. The objective is too flowery and very difficult to measure, but the goals are measurable.
So the language that and again, you can change it, but the language that we wanted to use for the plan is that the objective is more of the statement of what we want to do. And then underneath it is the measurable goal. So
Okay.
we are using that hierarchy to frame what it is. So it's almost like these objectives are more like those 4 Rotary priorities. They're statements. And then underneath it is the specificity for that statement. And again, you all can change that, but that was how we came up with what we're calling objectives and goals here.
So
And
it
my-
does be the priority? Do we rename it as priority 1?
We could do that.
And then
That may be easier.
consider even adding culture of kindness, respect, and accessibility based on the 4-way test, and maybe using accessibility in a broader sense for all, encouraging
Okay, so-
all to get involved.
So if I'm hearing you, Noel, change objective to priority
Right,
and add accessibility to the statement.
right. Kindness, respect, accessibility.
And do we keep cultivate?
No,
My suggestion was to continue because cultivate started 2 years ago and we're continuing what was begun.
So let me
what
type
has
this
begun.
in, and then we will use consensus to see if we can live with this change. Kindness. Something like that. So again, can we live with this? That's going to be the key. If we can't, whoever can't needs to say, I can't live with this, and then we either continue or we table it and come back. Okay, I'm not hearing anything. So
And remember that, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but many clubs use this as a template or an example for creating their own strategic plan in their club. So
Correct.
things we do in here can filter down into what clubs think that we expect of them.
Correct. Although I don't know if there's anything specific here yet that says permeate this culture to the clubs. The second half of the plan is more easily alignable for the clubs because they are joint objectives for the district working with the clubs.
Okay, thank you.
Right. And it may be that if we're going to continue it, that there's something in one of these initiatives that says or reinforces how it's going to get down to the club level, and we'll kind of see what we come up with. So, okay,
Yeah.
so the calling it a priority, and I'm going to assume, if you're all okay with this, that all 7 that we are currently calling objectives, we'll call them priorities. Is that okay? All right. So if that's the language for the district, what about this? Both in terms of the goal, how we measure it, and whether we need to extend beyond the 22-23 Rotary year.
You know, we did this, Jeff, to be consistent with the SMART way of doing goals, where it's measurable. And so we put this 80% in here to be measurable. But maybe, you know, based on what Eric says, which I think is very true, it's hard, you know, it's hard to get people to step forward and respond to our surveys to be able to measure.
Well, Annette, I think when we get to the communication, I think we'll have a chance to really dive into that. I do know, and I'll get you in just in a second, Eric, but I remember vividly that there was a lot of discussion to even put including in so that we weren't limiting ourselves to the member feedback, the 360 review. It's just that the group felt like those would be 2 ways of potentially measuring whether the clubs are satisfied, but the notion was we weren't limited to that. Eric, go ahead.
No, never mind. You answered my question. You're good.
So, yeah, go ahead.
I'm so sorry. So after rereading the new priority 1, do we still need the word kindness? Would accessibility and respect reflect what the intent of that word was originally, but be more current?
Would you all be okay with that? I think that was what Linda was also saying earlier.
Yes. I think when I was trying to find a synonym or something that was like, what were they trying to go with that? Or what were they intending with the word kindness 2 years ago? And that's when I thought of it. But now I see all 3 together. I don't think we need kindness.
Okay, are we
Well,
all
we do
okay?
need kindness, but not in the statement.
Sure. So are we all okay if we take kindness out? So it would be accessibility and respect.
Yes.
All right, off it goes. Okay, so keep in mind when we get down to the communication priority, there may be either a link to this or they may end up merging, just because in some ways communication and accessibility are connected loosely if best. So, okay, excellent. Okay, what about the goal? And we'll get to this other one, the second one in a second. But what do you all think about this here? Any suggested changes? Go ahead. Someone said something and I didn't hear what it was.
This is basically the goal of how the district is doing and the district leadership team and how they're
You know, I'd be happy if you got an 80% response. You know?
Yeah. Could you have it reflect the increased involvement in district activities? Because that's measurable. You can go back and look at who's registered and who has actually participated, as opposed to maybe focus that's a little more measurable.
What do y'all think? So, and again, what's nice is we've got this here, we just didn't do much with it. So that can kind of become our anchor, if that's easier to measure, or we can have this, and then this become, like you were saying, either like a sub goal or one of the initiatives or strategies.
So Jeff, I have a question about the second goal. If we're talking about district priority, shouldn't we already be involved with district activities? I mean, I don't really understand. Are we asking for more clubs involvement in district activities so that we have an improved culture, or it seems disjointed to me?
We can remove this, or we can it seems like we need to work on this. And I would say, and Bob facilitated last year, we just kind of passed over. We didn't really get into a deep discussion about this one, which we are now, which I think is good, but we didn't have a kind of a deep dive into what this we should do with this last year. So I think this is appropriate.
Jeff, can we just insert the word club? I really think we should focus on increasing club involvement in district activities to demonstrate an improved culture. Hopefully, those of us who are already on the club leadership team, if we have a committee meeting, if we're on a committee and we have a committee meeting, we show up for the committee meeting. I mean, that would be pretty bad if we can't even get our committee members to show up for committee meetings.
Okay, so are we all okay with just adding club there? Because I do think that helps clarify that statement.
I actually thought it was district level, so I was
did
thinking
too.
about
Can we say club and district?
district leadership team or something like that. Is that what the intent was? I'm not sure when it was created.
Well, maybe we need to define what district activities we're talking about.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's it. I was surprised when you said
Well,
it was supposed to be make sure that, the district leadership team was involved in district activities. I mean, that's a
here's the thing.
no-brainer.
right, but here's the thing. Almost all of you were not involved in this 2 years ago.
Right.
So you're going to own this going forward. So if you feel like this can be adjusted, like adding the word club or adding district leadership team, that's great. You can also say, we don't know what this means. We don't think it's relevant. Just take it out.
Oh, I think it's
So-
an important goal.
I do too, because I'll look at the example right now of pets. I mean, that's just an example.
Yeah, I do think now that you're discussing it, I do think that there was an implication that it did implicitly suggest club involvement, because the notion was if the district is kind and respectful and engaging, that clubs would feel better, let's say by this 80% highly satisfied, and be more interested in participating and collaborating with the district. So I do think that adding club is part of what the group was thinking. But again, it doesn't matter what the group was thinking 2 years ago. What matters
Right.
is
Yeah. If they don't want to come, they're not going to come. Now, I mean, if we're doing a double thing like district and clubs, then we need to add district and clubs
Right.
on this document. And I personally, in sitting through so many meetings lately, I think that's what we need to add, that district leaders have a responsibility as well as club leaders. We need to show what's, responsibility just like they do.
so. What about this?
Good.
And is this goal actually how we will reach the top goal? So could it be 80% or more satisfied by increasing involvement in the district activities, or are they two separate goals?
Well, so what you're looking at below, and so A through E are specific methods or approaches that the team 2 years ago felt would be worth doing to help accomplish the goal. So this here could be like F. Another approach to
Where's
help
that?
accomplish. It would be under E here. It would be one of
Oh,
the.
I
it would
see.
be-
Okay.
It
Oh,
could
you
be one
make
of
it out.
these. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
If that's how you feel that this is more like something we should do to help accomplish this
Hmm.
and
So-
this.
When we do strategic planning here at the university, our categories, I guess, our headers are a little different. We have our goal, objective, measures, and outcomes. So would the objective actually be the 80% or more are highly satisfied, but our goal is the increased involvement in district activities?
Mm.
Are we looking at maybe our categories are just kind of using them incorrectly, and that's what's confusing us?
Okay, so if that's how
agree.
you want to go, are we okay with this language here being called priorities? Because we started with that.
Yes,
Okay, what do you want to call this?
that would be an objective.
Okay.
And I agree with your suggestion that we move the increased
Mhm.
involvement as another one of the initiatives.
Okay. Okay, so all I did was I took this that we changed and just moved it down here as another of the, whatever you want to call them. And again, I'm glad you're going through this, Noel, because I want to make sure that for all of us, that the language we're using makes sense.
Good stuff.
We've got a priority, we've got an objective that has a SMART goal in it, right? Like Bob was saying.
Right.
And then we have these 6, and we're calling them strategies / initiatives. Are you all okay with that language?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's,
Okay,
Yeah.
I would make F a higher priority. I would make it at least a C or even a B.
okay, so
Then
that,
are these really ranking? Or they're just,
we're not
Well,
intending.
I don't
but
know
if-
that they're ranking, but when you read stuff,
Yeah,
the ones that are at the top of the list are more important.
so we'll move it in right here.
that's true.
Now, I have a question about B. I think it's excellent. But what I don't think we're doing today is we're not communicating back to the clubs. I think it would be wonderful if we had a way of communicating back to the clubs. Oh, by the way, we got this great feedback from the Camino Real Club. And this is what the district is doing to react to that feedback.
So we have 2 choices. One is we can include it here, but we also have a separate, at least currently, a communication priority.
Right.
Yeah, we
So-
have a communication area.
But let me make a note here. Link with or align with communication priority.
Right.
And then we'll figure out how we want to do that, but yeah.
Right.
Cool. Okay, so we've got the priority, we've got an objective. Do we want to extend the time frame, or do we want to keep it 22, 23?
I think,
Oh,
the
go
ti-
ahead, Debbie.
yeah, I think the time frame is right on.
Me too. I agree.
Cool, okay.
Yeah, and Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but in our objective, they're 80% or more highly satisfied. We're really talking about district personnel are highly satisfied with the culture, not the clubs.
Well, that's not what it says.
Nothing in here talks about clubs being highly satisfied with the district culture. It's the district personnel are happy with the culture in the district. Am I off base on this?
It
Well,
actually includes in
the-
that review club member feedback.
Right. So the
Okay,
tools,
okay,
tools that we're, now, it doesn't mean we
Yeah.
shouldn't be assessing ourselves, but the club member feedback and the 360 review, both of them imply club, how do the clubs feel? You know,
Right.
how do
Okay.
how do the customers feel about us?
okay.
Okay, boy, excellent discussion. Okay, so let's take a look at these 6 now. And we made an adjustment to B. We added the involvement in district activities. There's the sixth one here. Let me just make this a little bit smaller so you can see all six. Okay, so we've got 6, with the bottom one being this guy down here. So we don't want to lose that.
I have a problem with that one. That's just. Why do we even have to have that in writing? We
We
know
don't.
that.
We don't.
We know that. I mean, I'm sorry, wait, I have a train. Hold on. I live in the country. That's Americana at its best. I'm sorry.
Good
I'm-
morning, America. How are you?
That's it.
Okay, so we have an amendment to remove this last one. Anyone disagree or have a different perspective on whether we keep it, change it, or remove it?
I'm okay with removing it.
I'm okay. I think it comes across very negative.
Okay, so I'm hearing remove. Anyone disagree? And again, consensus rules apply. There it goes.
Good stuff.
All right.
y'all.
Excellent. All right, so now we've got these up here. Any other changes, additions? Oh, notice use peer review to assess ourselves. We already captured that.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Anything else then about these 5 that we've got? We can always add another if you feel like there's another key initiative or strategy that we should consider for this.
On D there, I think we're halfway there. We are using technology to make meetings more effective, but we don't have a team of tech experts formalized. Do we want to continue to strive towards having a tech team, or should we just eliminate that?
What do you think, Eric?
As an honorary member of the district nerd group, I think if we could have formalized it a little bit, and provide contact information, so it's a little easier to reach out to those people, and get help from Marshall or myself, and some of the others. And it might just be nice to even have maybe regions assigned, hey, you're kind of responsible for helping this part of the district and this part of the district, so people don't get overwhelmed. But there's definitely enough people in our district who can be tech savvy. I think it's a good idea to just formalize it and share that information with the entire district.
Okay.
So we keep it. is what I'm
Keep
hearing.
it, and then I would, yeah, and we can work to formalize that and have a true team. It doesn't have to be a committee, but just a roster of people
Right.
available to
And
help.
this can be another responsibility of the AGs. As they visit their clubs and communicate with their clubs, if they see that their clubs are struggling, or if their clubs could improve their ability to do virtual meetings, they can refer the club to this team of experts. Because I think a lot of the clubs, you know how it is.
Right.
You don't want to
So-
ask for help. You want to try to figure it out on your own, or you want to, you just are happy continuing to struggle at a subpar level.
Okay, so I'm going to ask, are we now okay with this entire priority number 1 as edited? Okay, you guys did a great job. One thing to keep in mind as we go through this, and you all have been great. After this, when we get to the Richard part, is when we're going to get into the how we're going to do the detail, right? So the plan is kind of at a strategic level. And then there's going to be like, okay, how are we going to engage the assistant governors in this? And how, so there's going to be a second level of more detailed tactics that that Richard is going to oversee with different groups after this, aligned with the plan. So my reinforcement to you all is, as much as possible, try to stay at the level we're at here, higher level, understanding that all of that detail is going to be flushed out after this.
Hey, Jeff, can you show it as clean really quick so we can kind of see the final product with all the changes?
And I'll clean it up after the meeting and send it out, but.
No worries. That helps me though, kind of see the final. I appreciate it. And if you need to go back to markup, certainly.
Cool, thank you. All right. Onward. Let's do one more and then we'll take a break. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Boy, we had a lot of discussion on this one. Let me see how far it goes down. Okay, it goes down to I. Oh, no, there's J. Okay. So if you want me to scroll, if you don't have a copy, I will, but it goes down to J. But we should start like we did before. This will be priority. And at least for now, this will be objective. And then we'll see about the language.
Just so you all know, addressing the priority number 2, it talks about policy and procedures. That manual is being developed right now and is actually in the works. Finally, we've talked about it for several years, but it's finally in the works so that we're not going back and adjusting our bylaws all the time. We'll have a policies and procedures manual, and then the bylaws will stick, and we'll just, it's kind of like an operation manual, if you will.
Will that be available for district conference for clubs to see and be able to vote on?
They're hoping to have it done, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think sometime in February.
Yeah, I
And
should have the first, it should have a working draft out to out to the district leaders, the people that are actually going to be responsible for their own areas there. That'll be out for their comments in February. But yes, we plan on having a manual of policy procedures to distribute to members by the district conference. Sunny, although we're not required, it's not a bylaw, it's not in the bylaws, it's a policy and procedure. So there's nothing that says it has to be voted on, but Sunny wants to have it voted on anyway.
I think so. I think.
And just as a note, and I'd be interested in Noelle's feedback on this because it's clear that she has experience from her work at the university about this. We have what we need. We know where to find it. We know how to access it. It's a pretty common question in a survey. And we thought again 2 years ago that type of question would fit what we're trying to do here, which is make sure that people know what information is out there and where to get it. So that we use that as kind of a basis for kind of clarifying what we thought the objective is here. So before we get to the strategic and the stuff below, what do we think about the language, the priority and the objective?
I like it.
I don't have any recommended edits for those two or the subcategory.
So any suggested changes to to this part up here?
Do we, on B there, do we really need a master list or do we already have one? I don't know.
We haven't gotten to the list yet. We're just looking at this language first, just to make sure. Okay, so we have consensus on that, I believe. So now let's shift, and I'm going to try to make sure they all get on the screen. Oh boy. All right, hold on. Give me a second here.
Like I'm at the optometrist office.
Yeah, my first comment is there's too many of them, and I think some of them are included in the other strategic strategies.
Simplifying is awesome if we can do it. So any of these can just be taken out, or we can merge a couple. That would be great. There's just one more below right here, which is Well, let's take a look at this one because when you look at the other ones, this one hides. So let's look at J first.
So that's ready in, that's in process now.
Correct.
Is
Okay, so do
J-
we
Is
go
J
ahead.
similar to B?
Say it again?
Is J similar to B?
Very
Why don't
similar.
we do this then? Let's do this.
And J is in process right now, so.
And just a question, do we have a Dropbox? Do we use
Yes.
Dropbox? Okay. And when you say use Club Runner, what are you really referring to? Are you referring to the document, the organization, committees, documents, protocol that we have now?
Yes, I believe so.
Believe that, yes, I believe that's what we were talking about.
Okay.
Okay, so all I did is I took J and I moved it up here and I just put add on, even though we haven't figured out whether how they link, just to clean it up. So everything now is in your view.
So
Debbie?
oh, go ahead, Linda.
To answer your question, because I started this process because when I came in, documents were in every sort of form imaginable. So what we have done is, or what we did is customize everything to Club Runner because that is what we use. So that everything is in file in Club Runner because that's what we use. So
Okay.
that's what that refers to.
And I believe, and some of you may know differently, under B, what's now B, the reason why we even included this is because Club Runner has a limit for file size.
It does.
So we just
And
said,
we
okay,
cannot
just
expand it.
right. So just to clarify, if it's a file that's too large for Club Runner, that would be one that would probably go in the district Dropbox.
So looking at letter D, can we either eliminate letter D or add the word streamlining to A, or I guess which B that we just combined with two A's going on?
Well, I'll
I think
change
we
that.
could
That was in
omit
the
I'm confused. Yeah, I'm sorry. But if you're saying a master list,
Yeah.
isn't that
Yeah.
streamlining?
So we can, again, I'll just mention that the reason why this was put in separately is that the master list can also be incredibly long. And so the notion of D was this additional notion of limiting clutter, removing old versions of things and all of that. So at least the sense was this should be done regardless of what the master list ends up looking like, just to make sure that we're being efficient in how we manage documents. Doesn't mean we can't merge them, but that's why it was moved out as kind of a separate item.
So could it be develop a master list to streamline the key documents?
Or how about a streamlined master list?
Sounds good.
And then we can remove D. Are we okay with that?
I have a question about the second A that's there right now.
Yeah.
Talking about sustainability and continuity, do we have a secondary backup location for all these documents? I realize that we put them in Club Runner, but one is none when it comes to data protection. So do we have a secondary place where all of these documents can live as a backup? And if not, we should.
Good point.
Eric, what options do we have there?
Well, we could either have a separate Dropbox link. We could use a Google Drive. It's always good to diversify. where your, vendor diversification. So if Dropbox goes down or Google gets hacked or something like that, that your data is available in multiple places so that you're not screwed over when something bad happens.
Yeah, I think there was, again, correct me if need be. I think Donette was housing them on the district secretary's computer as well.
I think
believe-
you're right. I think you're right.
Yeah, I believe that was a location for them, and Club Runner was a second location, and the district Dropbox for larger documents. So
Mhm.
Just as long as we have a continuity plan, if something were to happen to one of those three situations, that we
Correct.
don't lose everything.
right.
I support Eric's suggestion, and if anything, make it its own objective so it doesn't get lost.
Oh, okay.
For those of us that are not tech savvy.
Me.
Look at me getting to use my college stuff now. I'm finishing up the second bachelor's degree in cybersecurity, and it's finally coming in handy.
So how about, okay, so if it's separate, develop backup for document management for continuity purposes?
Yeah, that
Okay.
would be good.
Cool.
Well, we should have one, but if we already have one, do we need to put it in here?
How
Maybe
about
say
clarify-
ensure.
Sure, I love it.
Okay. Okay,
There you go.
If you have not seen it, one of the biggies was this last one here, because for a long time, the district documents were stored manually at New Mexico State. And and I don't know if anything's been done on this, but part of this whole objective or priority is to scan and all of that stuff and have it in an electronic format for sustainability, because the sense of just having it in a storage location didn't feel like that was sustainable. So that's why we included that last one, to make sure that we had a plan to have all of that backed up as well.
nothing's been done there, Jeff. Our historian has left. We need to get a new historian. And nothing has been done to do anything with any paperwork or whatever is being stored down in Las Cruces. And I think we really ought to decide whether we really need to or not. Is it that seems gargantuan to well, I don't know. If we
Bob,
really need to
I'm
do
the
anything with that.
committee.
So what?
I'm the committee, and right before they closed the library down, in that section, I went in there. Everything is physical things. They've asked us to move it out, but right now it can't be moved out until they say so. Till I can open it up and get back in there. And as soon as I can, I'll let you know, because it's going to take more than the vehicles I have. There's a lot in there. Now, paperwork, there's some boxes, but I didn't get an opportunity to go through them. No, he's not healthy enough to go with me.
Well, and we acknowledged, because we said it was a long-term plan. We knew this was going to take time,
Yeah.
but we just wanted to work it. We wanted to kind of start the transition period to kind of get that archive thing kind of taken care of. So anyway, and in fact, it said enroll and train a new district historian. We already had it in the language here. Okay, so question before we take a break is, now that we've added this and we merged a few, take a look at this new list, and I'll clean up the letters, but any changes, additions, deletions?
Can we delete C as have we already done it, done C, and so we can delete it?
I think C helps clarify things.
Okay.
Are we, I know this is nitpicking, but we're calling it a district Dropbox in A and a cloud Dropbox in C.
What
Do
if I
we
just,
want to? Okay.
Jeff, in the chat, I'm just going to type in the chat because it's a long sentence, but I have a way of rewording G that I think would be more effective, and just more typical or more correct.
okay. What I will do is when we take our, well, we'll all take a look at it. So open your chat because he sent it to everyone. So take a look at what Eric is proposing, because cutting and pasting out of the chat doesn't always work for me. But I can type it while we're on a break. We all okay with Eric's friendly amendment to G? It was friendly, right, Eric?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, just want to make sure.
No, absolutely. I just think it G as it's currently written is a little stilted again, and it just
Yeah.
it
Now,
clarifies.
So in your G, Club Runner is not mentioned. Do we need to mention it?
Yeah, we could do that. So use effective access controls and principle of least privilege in Club Runner to
Okay.
ensure that.
Okay.
I don't understand the phrase principle of least privilege. And I think the phrase would be just as effective if you left it out.
And we can leave that out. So the principle of least privilege is giving people the least amount of access to something that's required to do their job. So if I'm a committee member and I should only be able to get into A and not B and C, then that's all I should have. So that you don't get people deleting things that they shouldn't or adding things that they shouldn't. But I mean, it can get rid of it. That's not.
The one thing that we might want to address is when somebody's position change, like Debbie Cox becomes district governor. She should have more access, but that's not done automatically. She's done once Debbie finds out that she doesn't have access, then she has to ask somebody to give her access.
Right, right.
And that there really should be, this is a side note, in that policy and procedure manual, there should be a set of standard operating procedures for how access is given and revoked when positions change.
Okay.
Okay, so while you were talking, I typed. So here's what G looks like with the principle of least privilege out and Club Runner in.
And that is how you set up documents and access to documents in Club Runner. There are committees and those committee members can access certain documents, but not others. And you can make them private and you can make them public and things like that. So it's one of the things that's built into the back end of Club Runner.
Right. So
Now,
is everyone,
my other comment is, aren't D and G the same thing? If we're trying to simplify.
Yeah, they really are.
so let me ask, is all of D the same as G, or is just the second part of D the same as G?
Well, effective access controls really does address your information security and access.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I really think D would be redundant at this point.
Cool. Okay, before I remove it, everyone okay with removing D? Perfect.
Good stuff.
I'll tell you what, you guys are awesome. This is great.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, any other than cosmetics here, any other changes to this set? And again, just keep in mind, here's what our priority is. It's always good to kind of look back and make sure that we're all aligned.
I don't know if A is valuable.
That's what I was going to refer to that one too, or just say include the policies and procedures accessible or, but
Yeah, the first A is redundant,
I
I
don't
think.
think you need it.
Can we take it out?
Yep.
I think so.
Anyone interested in not taking it out? See, there now we took care of our letter issue.
Yep.
Yep.
And we streamlined. So we're
Yes.
already meeting goals.
Yes.
Exactly. Exactly.
Saved paper.
Okay. A through G, any other changes, additions? Hearing none. All right, it's 9:45. We're going to be doing this through around 11:30 and kind of see how the process goes. Do you want to do one more or do you want to take a break?
One more.
Oh, okay.
Cool. Man, what an engaged group. And by the way, for Richard, the ones that don't attend today, they get all of the work after today
Yay.
as
I
a
forget what
punishment, because we have a culture of kindness and respect. Out of respect, they're going to get all of the detail work, and you guys are going to take a vacay. So, all right.
But no more
Keep in
kindness.
mind-
Remember, we took kindness out. So that's.
No,
more kindness.
it's great. So, John, you've got your hand raised.
Yes, I do. Do we need to include something, going back just a little bit? I'm sorry, it just hit me. Do we need to include a short definition of what the Las Cruces document storage is? So that those
Probably.
who weren't here will understand what we're referring to there?
So, what would we say here?
I don't
New
know.
Mexico State University Library.
And it's a large repository of physical documents.
But not just documents, it's more than that.
The Rotary archives.
It's, yeah, Rotary archive of stuff.
Stuff.
There's Rotary archives are stored.
I like that technical term.
Sorry.
Archive of
Thingamabobs.
sorry. What do you want
Rotary
to say?
archives.
I'm sorry.
Just Rotary archives.
Yeah, that's plenty.
Okay. By the way, only the governor can go back to something we've already agreed to. Like we just did.
Sorry.
No one else has the permission. Once we say we're good to go, we keep going.
Sorry.
That's okay. All right. So
He's
keep
the
in
governor
mind,
elect.
well, yes, although for the purposes of this, he really is the owner with
Yep.
you all. So, okay. So this one, keep in mind, we had up in objective 1 or priority 1, this right here, there was a notion that part of that acknowledging the feedback and all that fit into communication. So there may be a link here and we can just go back when we need to. So this is a reminder. All right. Oh, let me change the language up here. Okay. So let's start with the priority and the objective before we get into the list. We did have an initial indicator. This is similar to what happened with the first one, where there was just like this second thing that people came up with, but we didn't know what to do with it. The initial indicator of this whole notion about communication information sharing was the number of Rotarians or the percent of club members who open email, view newsletters, like Facebook posts, all of that. We just had this in here as possibly a second measure, with this being the first measure. Does that make sense? They just threw it in there.
Would we want to include that 80% to be the 80%? We're also looking for 80% of the Rotarians and or the 80% of club members.
Yeah, we didn't quantify this.
Right.
So we can, if you like the initial indicator, we can put something like an 80% or something to quantify it, but we didn't do that, but we need to if we're going to use it. So
Yeah, and another additional indicator would be the percentage of club members who have a district Rotary ID, whatever it's called.
My Rotary account.
You're right, right.
So,
No, my
And
Rotary is a Rotary International thing.
Right.
Right, that's your ID.
So do we have objective 1 is the first 80% or more highly satisfied? And your additional indicator could be an objective 2 to increase the number of Rotarians and the percentage of club members who open emails from previous years,
Yep.
or under certain messaging, comparisons.
I would love to see that narrowed down just a little bit to maybe just emails and responses to district requests. I mean, again, for the district conference, we got 6 clubs out of 66 who responded. So instead of, because it's harder to track who reads the newsletter, it's harder to track those things. But I would love to see the amount of responses that we get back when the district sends something out increase really heavily.
Jessica has told me that we're able to see who opens the newsletter, not who reads it, but or what they read, but who opens it. We can.
Okay.
We are tracking that. It's not great, but we are tracking that.
Can I ask something about the newsletter? Who receives that?
Everybody.
Everybody that's got a club runner address.
I don't get it. And I have sent,
Linda, do you have various categories of your email? Like spam and updates? And
I do, but I've looked. I mean, I just don't get the newsletter, and I always got it before. I don't know what happened or what is happening.
well, you have to talk to Donette. Donette just sends a simple short email with a link to the newsletter.
Right. But we have club members that were doing the same thing. They have mentioned to me that they never received the newsletter. And I said it's because they have a Yahoo account. So
Right.
I don't have Yahoo.
Well, it's not necessarily Yahoo. I have Gmail.
I know.
I have Gmail, and Gmail automatically categorizes your mail into 5 categories.
Yeah.
And if it's
I've got
coming
Gmail.
from a mass email list, like all the Rotary stuff does, it automatically goes into my updates folder instead of my primary folder.
Yeah.
And I have to go looking for it.
And
But-
Eric, Donette also has a way to track who opens emails that she sends out.
Mhm.
So I think
Okay.
that it's more just making sure that we're actually getting, I would love to get responses more than just who opens it.
Right.
Because, that's going to be the better indicator. And
Exactly.
an aside, I really think that maybe we should start posting the link to the newsletter on the Facebook page. I don't think we're doing that. And I
That's
think
a
that'd
good
be a
idea.
pretty easy fix to that issue.
I do too.
Also,
Well, and we already have links to the newsletter on the website, the district website, right?
correct, yes. The website has got all the links to all our newsletters on it.
Right.
All right, so if I can just ask, before we get into the detail,
Okay.
let's focus
Sorry.
on the, no,
All right.
that's okay. But let's focus on the high level language. So we have a priority. Any thoughts or changes to that?
You have to put a space between information and sharing.
It's actually okay. It's just when I do the markup, it connected them, but they're separate. Okay, so we're okay with the priority. Okay, we have the original objective, which is this. Are we okay with keeping that? Okay, hearing none.
And we will again measure that via a survey or something.
That was the implication because
Yeah.
we put highly satisfied in quotes.
Because we talked about it back at the beginning, we're going to measure these things by using the survey. Cool.
But now we have an additional objective using your language. And we'll quantify this, just like we quantified this one up here. Increase. number of
I think you
Rotarians-
can, Jeffrey, I think you can combine additional objective with additional indicator.
Well, we haven't clarified this yet.
Okay,
That was a third thought. So I'm just, it's a placeholder until we get this one.
okay.
So it's
What's your
increase.
definition of a member ID? Everybody's got a member ID, don't they?
No. You have to go in and do it yourself.
Once a member ID is actually issued by Rotary International once they become a member.
Yeah, so that's why we're calling it the wrong thing.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why.
Let's do this one first, because that was
Okay.
the first suggested addition, and then we'll go back to this member ID one.
Okay.
So increase
All right.
number of Rotarians or percent of club members who open email, and I added responses to district requests, correct?
Yeah.
And I kept newsletters because Bob said that Danette tracks that. But then we have et cetera, meaning there may be other ways. Are we okay with this language as is, as an additional objective? And what should be the measurable part? Should we go back to 80%?
I would just say an increase, strive for an increase, maybe since we're new to measuring it.
Yeah.
But do we need a number?
I don't think so.
If you're
Okay.
comparing year to year, say between fiscal years, do it. Increase in Rotarians compared to previous fiscal year.
What if we said 20% more than previous year?
Also, since this is an outline, do we need to number the objectives? Objective 1, objective 2, and if you do have an objective 3 before you go
Well,
to your strategy,
we have the priorities numbered.
but then you have your strategies are all alphabetized, so it looks like we're using an outline format.
Well, I'll just put like objective number 1, objective number 2 here.
Yep.
Easy fix. Okay, do we want to say increase by 20%, something like that? So we've got a number compared to the previous year of Rotarians who opened, blah, 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 something like that.
Sure.
You just say year over year.
Perfect. Okay, how's that?
And then instead of responses, I think it would read better if you just said respond to district requests.
Who? Yep. Verb is good. Read newsletters or open newsletters.
Open
That's all.
newsletters, because I guess that's all we can
That's all we
measure.
can do. Okay. All right. How's that? Okay. If you're all okay with objective number 2, let's go back to clarify this thing. What is that? Do we need to add it? Is it a member ID? What's the, what are we looking for here?
It's a district profile. Setting up a district website email. I forget what it's called.
So it's in Club Runner you're talking about.
Yes.
And I think that's correct. It's a profile. They're adding their, kind of
Right.
like on the club website, my experience, my role, my
Right.
background. Okay. In Club Runner. And this is objective number 3.
Okay.
And we'll do 20% again.
Yep.
How's that? So keep in mind, and this may be obvious, and it's going to be up to John as to how this is done, but all of these measures need to be measured. Like, we've got to do the survey. We've got to say, hey, Danette, we need a tracking of. So I think part of what we didn't do well earlier was we set up all this stuff, but we weren't doing the measurement part.
Right. And you have some of that identified here in the strategies initiatives.
Correct, correct. Okay, so before we get into the list, are we okay with these 3 objectives as worded? Okay, cool.
Good
All right,
stuff.
we'll get to the list and then we'll take a break. Here we go. So we've got A through J. And just like we did before, we can merge, change, delete. And again, we've got this link up here. Let's not forget this, if it'll help. This club member feedback. And the notion when we were going over this is it would be helpful if we got feedback from the clubs, kind of like we were saying the response to the district request. This would be a response to a district request, right? So this is like an example.
Well, I'll give you an example. When we met with the Trauma Club and Bob Roush was there, the president, her very first request / complaint was, Club Runner is too expensive for small clubs. Is there some way that as a small club, we could access District Club Runner and still get all the same benefits? And of course, technically, we know that's not possible today. But what might be possible is negotiating a new fee structure with Club Runner for these smaller clubs. And so that's feedback that we got from a club that we should try to respond to. And then when we do respond to it, communicate to everybody what we did.
It's a great example. Okay, so let's take a look at A through J. And just like we did with the last 2, suggest changes, merging, deleting, adding.
I think A, we just did in the objectives above.
But do we have the baseline?
No, we don't.
See, I don't think we do.
That's why you need A, right?
Right.
So our wish list is at the top, but now we need to get practical and figure out what can we really track? And are we tracking it?
So we do have a slight baseline. Donette was talking about it the other night. She said on average, we have 6 to 7 clubs who respond to anything from the district. So we were at around 9% of clubs who respond to district resources. So in the next year, we'd like to be at 30% if we're following the 20%.
So with all due respect, if you look at objective number 2 and objective number 1, do we really have a baseline? See, I don't think we do. I mean, I'm facilitating the meeting. I think we have pieces of a baseline, but it's not.
But it's not there yet.
Altogether. Yeah. Maybe we should say finish establishing a baseline, just to clarify that we've got a little bit.
Okay.
Or complete. Is that okay? Because we certainly want to acknowledge what's already been done, but it's not complete.
There we go.
And then this part B, I don't know what's happening today, but I suspect what's happening today is that some district leaders send emails to clubs on their own, and some go through Donette to do it.
Yep.
And I think that's a problem because there's inconsistent communication.
Right.
Yep. That's why this developed the system is what the group came up
Right.
with. They didn't have a system. Whoops. And what you said, Debbie, is the who should send. So we've got that.
Right, right.
Yeah.
What, and just being a curmudgeon here, what is the impact of getting letters from directly from a district committee chair or a district member, or getting it through Donette? What's the problem with that?
Since I'm on the district leadership team, I'm pretty much getting everything. But then when I get it, I make the decision, is this something that every club member should get? And I usually don't know if it was sent to every club member. So I go back to the person who sent it and I ask, to whom did you send this?
Mhm.
So I know if it's something that I should personally forward to the clubs.
Okay,
And that's kind of a pain.
okay.
I also think that this last aspect, we started it, but I don't think we ever either completed it or got it out to everyone to say, this is the system. This is the protocol to
Right.
follow for district communications.
Right.
Would
And
that
you
be
know,
part of the policy procedures manual?
Could be.
It should be.
Should be, should be.
You know, Don Head is not always available to
Right.
send letters out.
Correct.
But
It
then
seems,
Bob, if that's the case, then like in my case, when I'm in the middle of doing grants, district grants for grant training or various other things, I need to do a mass mailing. Then I need to have the ability to have that software available to me to send that out. I don't have that available.
Why don't you, do you have access to Club Runner?
I do not have that line of.
You're not in Club Runner?
Well, but there's different permission levels.
Nope.
I
So
mean,
committee chairs cannot send out mass emails? in
Well,
Club Runner?
I'm not able to.
Okay,
I was told that
okay,
it's all full.
okay.
And
I
that-
have been able to, I think, if you guys have been receiving mine.
you're able to,
but again, I think this is indicative of the problem.
I'll just send it to you, Willis, and you can send it out.
So I'm saying, I think that what we have is we have,
A
I
failure
don't
to
want to say
communicate.
random, but kind of piecemeal permissions set up, and we need a better system for that.
Yep.
Okay, I didn't realize there was levels of permissibility in that.
Hmm.
Okay, so take a look at A through J. We tweaked A. We reinforced the importance of keeping B. What else in here?
On
Carla, you've been awfully quiet. Please, your input is important.
letter C,
Yes.
should these be referred to timely videos? Maybe, so they're not just necessarily similar to like a visit or something where it's a little more overview. I think the clubs would be more likely to play those videos if they're timely or relevant or encouraging people to attend the conferences or trainings, but just, I don't know, maybe a little more definition to it.
We're okay with that change? Timely? Cool.
To
Yeah,
whom
and
does
I would just add to this, because I don't want the district to have to do all this work that Rotary International may have already done. So if you could say, and recommend pertinent RI videos that clubs should view.
And what was the language again?
Recommend pertinent RI videos that clubs should view.
Oops.
That's good.
And get rid of the parentheses. And change
My
it.
only question or statement would be then to who does that responsibility belong? Is it the public image chair? I mean, I'm happy. I'm working on a commercial for Bob right now for the district conference for videos to send out, but I just want to know who is responsible for those videos if they're created and not just RI materials.
I think the responsibility rests with the entire district leadership team.
And keep in mind, questions like this, which are extremely relevant, if we don't address them now, Richard will address them in the who's going to get the work done and what's the detail
Right.
of it. So if we decide today, that's great. If we don't, it'll be phase 2.
Well,
keep in
and
mind, up until now, we really haven't focused much on who.
Right.
That's true.
And my sense is that, and we've had a really good discussion, my sense is that unless we need to discuss it, that would be part of phase 2 anyway.
Right. And the who is everybody who didn't show up today.
Exactly. Exactly. That's right.
I'm making a list.
That's right. First, they have to watch a 4-hour video of other people planning that they did not participate in, and then get all the work done. Okay.
Wow.
well, and the who would also be on that, like polio. That's under my team. So that would be foundation would make that determination. But I would never, ever set up a particular month schedule without communication structure with, in my case, with the district governor. I would make sure the district governor knows what our game plan is. And then in tune, I would make sure lieutenant governors and assistant governors know what I am would like them to send out, or in our case, they would probably say, well, go ahead and send that out to the presidents.
Okay, just focusing on time here. Any other changes or additions or merging for the A through J?
Was the sense of the second part of D to have that like a speakers bureau? Is that what they were referring to there?
Could be.
Club members
Could
regularly have HEs identify club members interested in topics. I think that was part of it, yes.
Okay.
And you'll notice, because they weren't all the same, like this list gets into very specific examples, like try this, they're not like we're going to enforce that everyone do this, but some of these were more like illustrative examples of ways to help with communication and information sharing.
Jeff, on D there, empower assistant governors. Are they not empowered now?
I leave it up to you and John. I mean, that was the language we came up with. I mean, if they're already empowered, maybe it's reinforced or something. I don't know.
Do we need to tell? I mean, that's part of what we do at assistant governor training, is just tell them. I mean,
Yeah.
what's the role of the assistant governor if not to communicate with the clubs? I mean, that's really the essence of being an assistant governor.
Yes.
Okay, so we have talked before about how in some cases, assistant governors are not reaching out as proactively as we think they should.
Right. And I think some of the assistant governors don't even know how to use the district club runner site to find out who their presidents are and their president-elects.
So maybe we need to strengthen D.
Right. It's amazing how few know how to do that.
Right. So what would be a stronger term than empower? If that's what we're looking for.
Educate assistant governors.
On effective communication ways.
Right.
On effective
Right.
communication tools, something like that. That'd be fine.
Bear with me here.
Very good. I like it.
Mm.
Okay.
You okay with that?
Yeah.
All right. Any other changes for A to J?
Is F not included in priority number 1? Letter D?
Say that again.
Is F not included in priority number 1, letter D?
Yes, it is.
Oh, priority number 1, letter D. Here we go.
Well, now it's F. I'm sorry.
Well, this is more internal to the club, I think. And then we developed a team of tech experts to help them. Let's see. And then we go down here. Focus on, yeah. They could, I mean, we could take that out, I think. Or what do you all think?
I
think we
recommend
could get rid
deleting
of it.
it.
I'm sorry?
Delete?
Okay,
Because you already
so
have,
here's something- if it's okay, I'm gonna do this. I'll delete it here and then up here. Here.
And communications, use technology to make meetings and communications.
I like it. How's that? Should we put, no, let's not. Okay. All right, so that's gone.
and I was going to ask about H. But is that, does that tie in with this? I think it was H.
Tie in with,
What we're just talking about with the different methods of communication.
well, if I understand your question, Noel, the last one was specific to technology.
Okay.
And this is broader. This is like phone call, email, you know, not limited to technology. Just be more diverse in our communication methods. Again,
Yeah, let me make a comment. You know, email is becoming almost passé. What we do in our small club, because we're relatively small and it's easy to do, we send emails, but then we also send a group text message to everybody. And the group text message gets a much better response than the emails.
and that is exactly why we added the second sentence to
Right.
even though we don't give examples, the acknowledgement that especially with the younger members, email just doesn't.
Right. But in order to be able to send text messages, you need to have everybody's cell phone number.
Correct.
And we don't have that unless somebody bothers to put it in Club Runner.
Correct.
Well, if I may open a little bit of a bigger can of worms, I suppose. It's extremely difficult, and I don't think, I think very few clubs actually update their officers and
Yep.
that
Yeah.
stuff. And it's, you know, I get a club lead and all I can do is try the president, and it's, well, I was president 2 years ago. And so if there is a way we can put in here to, I know we do it at pets, but if there's something we can do to say we focus on making sure that the information is updated annually and taken care of correctly, and I'm not sure how to word that. Or
Yeah,
if we want to
and
put
it's
it in at all.
key. It's really key to have those officers, not just the president, but the president-elect and the treasurer. A lot of our problems in getting the RI invoices paid is that the treasurer is not properly identified. They don't know who to send the invoice to.
And I think what you're acknowledging here is that even though we're viewing this as a district priority, the effectiveness is going to be dependent on things like having club members' cell phone numbers and correct email addresses and things like that. So there's an implication that for this to work, the district has to reinforce to the clubs and to the members the importance of keeping everything up to date and all that. So
Right.
I think that was embedded in kind of this whole strategy here.
Objective number 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, if it's okay with you all, can I add complete?
There you go.
Cell phone, email address, mailing address, you know, is that okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
And
All right.
on roll, club roll.
Isn't that part of the profile?
Yeah.
Well, you still have to have the secretary or someone properly identify who the club officers are. That's separate from the individual profiles.
But is this wording still okay for objective number 3?
Yeah.
Okay. So going back to A through I, I'm hearing that Willis may have a suggested addition. Is that correct?
Yeah, if there's a way we can put something in that says, you know, the correct communication with each club by having annual updates done correctly, that's key to getting stuff out.
Okay, so
I'm not sure how to word it.
Letter B talks about the executive secretary's role as to on who should send the message. Maybe we need
Right,
to.
but this is actually the club. If the club doesn't have their information, we should be tickling them to get their information correct in Club Runner.
okay, bear
Is-
with-
Is my thought.
Would you think that the policies and procedures manual will be a better place to address this?
Probably.
Sure, if that's the better place, then I'm all for that.
Okay, I just threw something in there that I think captures what you were saying, Willis. I'm not sure, but how's that?
Yeah, I think that's good.
You sure?
And Willis, what brings to mind something that we haven't done ever that I know of is because of by district and the way we've come up with this form that we're using, it's a paper form that puts phone numbers, addresses, everything down for presidents, for the by district chair, for actually the money person, which is the secretary. Maybe the membership and foundation people need to get together once a year or something and look at information that's in the system and work together as a team to come up with what's in the system.
Something as
Maybe
simple
I-
as, I'm sorry for interrupting, Linda, something as simple as the new member application.
Yeah.
The new member application does not have all the data fields on it that we really would like.
Okay, so with all due respect, I think we're one level below.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
So-
I don't know.
Well,
But that's a great
the
idea.
question is, are we okay with this language as an added kind of strategy or initiative under communication, the way it's worded? Because again, we'll get to the detail later.
Member and officer,
Member and, or how about member especially, including officers or especially officers? Including officers?
especially officers, like. That's really what we need to update every year. And I know we get those communications asking our secretaries to get that all entered by a certain date so that the incoming folks.
Yeah, I like especially because it gives it more importance. Okay,
Yep.
so now we've got A through J with the suggested addition from Willis. Any additional changes to this list? And again, we've got kind of three objectives now. We've got a priority.
And will G go away with the publication of a policies and procedures manual?
Well, it does say communicate all. It's not develop the manual, it's communicated out, right?
Okay,
Why don't we say via the pending manual? Something like that, or that will be in the district manual, something like that.
okay.
All right, any other changes to this list? If not, if we're okay, let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break. So it's 25 after. So we would convene at 25 before 11. 10-minute break.
Great stuff, guys. Really good stuff.
Yep.
Don, was Donette invited to this August group?
No, she was not.
Okay.
It almost sounds like there needs to be a district information officer position created whose job is to handle information quality and assurance stuff, who could maybe oversee that as their job. I think that would streamline a lot of your issues with what information's out there, what needs to be corrected.
So we talked about although it's not specific in here because again, it was one level below, the idea of either expanding the role of the executive secretary or having a team working with the executive secretary for things like what you were mentioning. So it's like there's some connection there, but the question was, is the executive secretary solely responsible for these expanded responsibilities, or does the secretary have a team, almost like how the district trainer has a team to do more than just the sole responsibility? But again, we never went into detail on what that would look like, but I think that notion was discussed. And I think that's why this was elevated to a priority, because we said, well, yeah, we do a lot of communications, but we don't have a system.
So we need a quality control team who works under Danette, whose job it would be to ensure that all the information we have in our various systems is accurate. Because I think that would be the most efficient way of verifying and things, but because it can't all fall on Danette, or it shouldn't. But a team of people whose job it was to make sure that that information is correct would be pretty handy.
Yeah. Yep. So Richard, as we're going through this, are things coming to mind about how we would go to phase 2?
I think so, but I'm on break, so I can't really comment on. Yeah, I think so.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Jeff,
Good. That's funny.
Yeah, I've got my club runner page open here, and I will tell you, that is not an intuitive page or website. I mean, the drop-down menus are, I don't know, sometimes there's only too many layers that you have to get through to get to what you're looking for. If ever they give us a chance to give them some constructive.
So I totally agree. But once you learn it, so like, for example, when John sent out the instructions of how to find once you know how to navigate it, because it's not intuitive, then you're fine. There should be people like the tech team who help people navigate Club Runner because it's not intuitive. The notion, though, is that if you can navigate it, the functionality is great. It's just where to find things or permission levels and things like that. So it's a nice platform. It's just not intuitive.
Well, and I think things that we have to keep in mind are, our presidents are looking at this, for a year, and then they're gonna scoot out, and then the next group of presidents come in. So I don't aim to solve all the problems.
What I like about what you all are doing and what the group 2 years ago did is that we can't do everything, but we have to prioritize.
Yeah.
And the notion was these 7 things that we're going through today were what we thought were the most important things to focus on, because we can't do everything. And the things we need to focus on, they're not all going to be, fixed tomorrow. So the notion was, 3-year plan, plant seeds, work it, measure how we're doing, because these are not easy things.
Right. I really want to put the gossip thing back in there. No.
Yeah. That's funny. Oh.
All right, I'm gonna go grab some coffee. I'll be right back.
All right.
I was gonna say, I've had a little bit too much, reflected in some of my shortcomings.
Well, this is a great group. They've
Yeah.
been engaged, great ideas.
You know, I forget that, you know, my access to club runners may be different from other people's, and I forget that.
It's inherently random. So I think the system we're talking about would be something that says, okay, for this role, this is your permission level. This is what you have access to. We don't want everyone to have access to everything, but I think that was the whole point of saying we need kind of this managed thing that makes the club runner access less random than it kind of is.
Yeah. Linda, I apologize. I was just saying before you sat down that I didn't realize that I have different access levels in Club Runner than other people do. I've been making assumptions there. I think sometimes it's the emperor's clothing syndrome that I have sometimes.
Well,
Don't
that's
worry
another
about
reason, yeah, it's another reason why it's good that we've got a few club presidents on today, because it's good to get input from the people we serve, because we're in a box.
Well,
So-
we are, and we all get busy, you know, we've all got outside interest too.
Yep. But I think ultimately, if we work these things, if we believe that they're important, then we will do better serving clubs, which is ultimately why we exist. And if the notion is that we're already doing a great job of serving clubs, it in some ways lessens the importance of these priorities. Like, well, we're already doing a great job, so let's just, you know, stay the course. But I think the notion of the group is in these areas we can do better.
We can always do better.
We can always do better. You know, you gotta remember, we're dealing with volunteers at the club level. And like Eric said, most of the clubs out there are really oblivious to what's going on at the district. They're just focused on the club. And we want to help them, but they, you know, they just are sort of doing their own thing, which is fine, because they're doing great down there in most cases.
It's
And actually, that's not a bad thing. You
Yeah.
know, that's kind of, you know, what we kind of want in a way. We're there to serve them and help them if they need it, but we don't want to become too intrusive either.
But you know, just like we were talking about, Deborah was talking about just recently here with the RI dues thing. You know, that they get in trouble because they don't get the information from Rotary International. They don't, and positions change in the middle of the year, and it's not updated in Club Runner, and so the right people don't get the right information, and they don't realize they're not getting something until the very end. And so, wait, you know, then we come down on them and say, how come you haven't done that? So I didn't know I had to.
you
Well,
can see the
but it
conundrum.
never ceases to amaze me. If you didn't get your electric bill, wouldn't you be asking? You
Yeah.
know, and it's the
Yeah.
same way with Richard.
No.
I had, when I was,
I'm gonna tell John you said that.
I do remember one time when I was younger, much younger, newlywed. My wife called me up one day at the office and said, a truck just drove up in front of our house and left, and all the electricity went off.
When
What do I
John and
do?
I first started dating, John said, the first bill you will pay is the electric bill. Do you understand me? And I went, oh, yes, I understand you.
Wow. Okay, it is 10:35. Are we all back? If you are back, please turn on your video. Okay, okay, we're getting there. Willis, Noel, Ophelia. See, now, if they don't come back in a timely manner, then they get some of the phase 2 work also. All right, let's start. So the rest of these the group that started this thought that they were a collaborative, we're calling it a priority now, of the district working with the clubs. So the first three were district focused. Now we're looking at the collaborative ones. So this is the branding one. So I just changed the language up here. So let's again start with this. Thoughts?
Is that even an issue any longer?
Yes,
Is it
We-
still?
we still have a lot of clubs who aren't using the new branding, whose Facebook pages are kind of atrocious. It's just a lot of work that still needs to be done just to help bring everybody in line.
All
How
right.
can we help them?
Yeah.
I think it's going to take reaching out one-on-one and saying, hey, we're going to meet on a Saturday and we're going to get your club up to snuff on all of this stuff. I
Okay.
think that's what it's going to take.
Okay, so for this language up here, are we okay with the priority and the objective? And I will say, we struggled with what this would look like. And the only thing we can come up with is that clubs qualify under the public image section of the citation. So if you can think of a better measure, that would be fine, but that's all we could really come up with for how we would know.
And as I say, I haven't seen the new updated one for 22, 23 yet.
Okay, so question to the group before we get into the initiatives. Are we okay with the language up here? All of this?
Is there a way that we could like provide the clubs some of this information, because branding changes and sometimes they don't get it because they've never received it? Because I know I copied something off the district web page and then I was told yesterday it was wrong. So I personally have to fix my stuff.
So what would the new language be? What are you thinking?
Instead of employ all methods of branding, say provide the latest, provide updated branding to clubs for implementation or for use, or so they have it. Because what you don't know, you don't know. And if nobody sends it to you, you may think you're doing it correctly and you're not.
Yeah, part of the issue is Arturo this past year has created logos and stuff for every club. And so every club should be up to snuff on this, but they still aren't. So
let me ask, we've got C here. So I'm just looking, we've got that. Is that, so we've got that one level below the priority. Is that sufficient?
Could we combine A and B?
Well, what I want to do first is I want to get consensus on this.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
That's okay. Okay, so we've
Fine,
got
fine.
this here to address what Carla was saying, and if you're all okay with that, but are we okay with this?
Yes.
What
Okay.
if we said ensure correct branding to build awareness? Ensure correct Rotary branding or something.
What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, I like that because I mean, employ all methods of branding. We just want one brand. So I like what Willis said there.
Okay, so is it
Ensure correct branding.
Are we okay with that?
Yeah.
good stuff.
Good stuff. All right. Now we get to the list, including the one about educating and informing clubs.
I think A is too broad to, we could eliminate that, or we could maybe meld it into B, but I think just ensuring that we are communicating a consistent message. I don't know what the message is, and who are we?
Well, I can tell you what we meant. But again, you guys need to own it, but what we meant was we, the district, us, need to communicate consistently. And part of that went back to the communication priority. The sense was that as part of just good branding and consistency, like for example, if we agree that we're going to use the Rotary logo and the theme logo in all of our documentation, then all of us need to do that. That kind of consistency of our own materials using the correct Rotary brand. Eric?
Could we say ensure that the entire district is communicating a consistent branding?
Sure.
And that way, because that way we're talking specifically about not necessarily what we're saying, but how it looks when we say it.
Got it. That was the intent. So
Okay.
is that better?
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank
How about just
Is-
a consistent brand?
Yeah, instead of branding, just brand.
you. Consistent brand thing.
I like that better.
And if we do that, then B is not necessary.
Yeah, because it should all be.
So is everyone okay with removing B?
On number B, instead of educate and inform, how about educate and provide?
We could, although we have provide support.
Oh, okay. But I mean, well, never mind. Because I
No,
was
no,
thinking,
no, I'm just saying we can reword this, but there's providing included. It's just, is it worded correctly?
Educate and provide clubs.
Because really,
material.
there's really a comma here. It's educate and inform clubs about Rotary Brand Central and other branding resources,
Okay, yeah, I didn't.
comma, and provide support where appropriate.
Yes, that's great.
And as part of that, can we go back to A and add after brand consistent with RI direction or whatever
Standards.
standards?
I put it in parentheses. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we need to say under B and inform, or just say educate clubs?
What do y'all think?
Educated, informing is part of the educational process, I would think.
Okay, so are we okay with removing and inform?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That to me is legitimate wordsmithing.
Yes.
So,
I've been using Grammarly.
okay, A through H. Any other thoughts?
How about on C? I don't know. Empower, maybe encourage
Exactly.
or ensure, or I guess empower. I think clubs are empowered. It's just they have the power. They're just not employing it.
Encourage is a good word.
Okay.
We need to update the date.
Yes, please.
I
I need
Okay,
more
what's the-
time.
What's the new date?
Could we do end of the year by 12, 31, or by
Yeah.
the start of January 1, 23?
July 1, 2022. Just give it an extra day.
Oh yeah, thanks. That's super helpful. I'll see how many meetings it can fit in that day because they're all gonna wait.
Oh, you can do it.
Oh yeah, no, but that's a
You're
good one.
Superman.
I'll fix it's a little funky, but I got it. So
Gotcha.
1/1/23. Right?
Yes, that would be much better.
All right. Any other adjustments to these?
On Echo, I don't know, maybe I'm being hard over on this. Can we actually ensure all clubs, can we actually accomplish that, or can we encourage all clubs to have a functioning public image committee?
Yeah, I think encourage, especially the smaller clubs that have 5, whatever members.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Could we change that to ensure they all have a chair instead of a committee? Because you can be
Yeah.
a committee of one.
Chair,
There you go.
yeah, exactly.
And I would like to ensure that they have a public image
Okay,
chair.
Okay,
Okay.
how about this?
I'm in G with that.
Yeah.
How's that?
Love
Yeah.
it.
Okay, so we're good for this one. Awesome job. 3 more to go. Oh,
Going backwards again, please.
I'm sorry.
I think we need to adjust the membership objective, because, you know, we've lost, getting to 2,500 members, I think is unrealistic.
Okay, so what would the new number be? By when?
Where are we at now?
We're at about 2050.
John, did
I
you
think
say you needed to go backwards?
Could you do it by a percentage instead of a definite number?
Yeah, we can, or we can, yeah,
We
Well,
could.
but what would be the advantage in a percent? I mean, we're already tracking the actual number, right? We're at 20, whatever Bob said. I mean, I'm not saying we shouldn't use percent, but we already have a measure for actual number anyway.
What was purged in December, Bob?
how many, I think we lost like 14 members in December.
Do we have an average loss per year that we've measured over the years that maybe we should be looking at that percentage that's above that? So we're still looking at a net gain, and what do you want above that?
I don't
For
think we've captured
July.
that well.
Well, what?
I was appalled to see that, you know, I sent out 120 welcome letters and we've got a net growth of 11.
Hey, no, take it. It's good.
Well, I'm taking it, but it's, we don't have a recruiting issue. We have a retention issue in my
Yeah.
mind.
Yep.
But
In
that's
July,
that's below our,
in
well,
July, if you don't lose any clubs, you should probably lose around, this is gonna be a rough year. I'd say you're gonna lose 50. And that's being conservative, but
yeah.
So my suggestion as you're thinking about this is that we are basically we're taking an existing plan and we're adding time to it. So that's why Richard's involved. And so at a minimum, whatever this objective is, it shouldn't be the 22-23 Rotary year. It should be like the 24-25 Rotary year. And if
So
it's
instead of
3
changing the
years,
number, just move it out farther.
right? But if we change this to 24-25, then what we're thinking about is what do we think a reasonable membership number is in a 3-year period?
If we could gain 200 members in the next 3 years, that's a pretty good stretch goal.
ooh,
Put us at 2250 would be, and that may be too many.
That's a 10% growth. Yeah.
Yep.
I was gonna say 5%, just so we feel good that we achieved
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
I would
You
say,
lost.
5% is doable.
So that would
And if
be, I
you
think,
exceed
that
that,
would be,
then you feel good.
so I think 5, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we're at like 20,
125.
2025, 5% of that is
1.25.
yeah.
Yeah, 125.
So we're looking at
5%. That's a 5% in 1 year. Over 3 years, it should be somewhere around 12%.
Correct.
no, but I think the notion was 5% over 3 years. Is that correct? Or did I not hear that right?
I was imagining annual, 5% annual.
Yeah, 5% over 3 years is pretty neat.
Okay, so how do you want to say this then? Do you want to just say 5% membership growth each year over the next 3 years? Leave it at that?
Yeah.
Ah, there you go.
We can take this out. Well, I'm sorry.
Can
Yeah.
you do that, Willis?
Well, let's hope we don't have too much more of this crud that keeps coming back every 2 months. That's what's really killing, I think, because people are just getting frustrated and there's 30+ year members that are just saying, I'm done.
So a
Yeah.
friendly amendment, would it help to say at the end here, as measured by end of year statistics?
Sure.
Sure.
Since they do change, okay. All right,
I don't know if you need over the next 3 years included if we've given it a date.
okay. Look at that.
Another way of saying it would be a 5% year-over-year growth for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
How's that?
Okay,
Cool. All right. So are we okay with the priority and the objective as stated? Okay, A through F. By the way, because I made a Word version, if you want to keep A, I would just reattach hyperlinks to the final version.
I guess for years, we've been talking about retention. Does that need to be a strategy of whether it's surveys or how do we overcome the retention?
So I don't want to say we copped out 2 years ago. But if you look at A, the notion is we need to develop a plan, like a specific membership plan. And that specific membership plan would be for recruitment, retention, and extension. So we felt, and again, you all are going to own this, we felt like that was one level below our charge, and that, let's say, Willis and the membership committee in conjunction with the governor would do A, and what Noel is suggesting would be included in the plan to be developed, or the one that already exists. Does that make sense? So it's up to you all if you want to be more specific, but that's why A is written the way it was written.
And I guess my question is more about pulling out and making retention an emphasis, because right now, if we combine recruitment, retention, and club extension in one statement, I think most clubs will focus on recruitment. And there are things going on with all service clubs, why we're losing people, but making retention its own emphasis. And I don't know how you go about it. That's the next level down. Research.
Okay, so what I did, if it's okay, is if you're okay with the general wording, I just put in parentheses after retention, primary focus. That way it's written that we believe that retention is the primary focus. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, A through F, other thoughts? We should change the dates on D.
Yes.
So what, two?
John,
Sorry.
didn't you say something about each one bring one and each one keep one, or?
Yeah, the next president, Richard, oh, I just lost his name.
Sorry.
From Ireland, from Scotland.
Oh, Gordon?
Yeah. He's talking about taking Shaker's campaign of each one bring one and renewing it to each one keep one. Jennifer hasn't said anything about that, so.
Okay, so I added it to D. How does it look now?
Yeah. And I have an idea. Letter I from the previous objective, I think belongs here rather than where it is in branding.
This here?
Yes. The exit interview, if you will.
So why don't we do this, if you're okay? Because part of the language in this is with a view to improve our internal branding.
Right.
Okay, why don't we just take this and copy it rather than just move it?
Okay.
Copy it here because it has relevance under this objective as well.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, you got it. So what's interesting about what we just did, and you've already probably, I mean, you may have been thinking about this, but if something shows up under 2 priorities, which this one now does, up here, the implication is it's within the purview of Eric and his team in conjunction with the rest of us. And now it's also under membership, which means Willis and his team in conjunction with all of us. So looking at Richard and how this is going to get implemented, there's now a natural link between the public image group and the membership group jointly working on this. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Cool. Okay.
I like
Anything
that.
else? Sorry.
I just like that.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to work in silos.
Exactly.
No.
Okay, anything else for now, A through, and I'll clean up that's going to be G. Anything else in this set of stuff?
Hey, Jeff, are we going to try to come up with a number of clubs that we want to expand by? Because right now it's blank.
Yeah. Letter E,
Right.
total
You are
of.
correct. Sunny had reminded me that we did not come up with a number for E. So do you want to keep E and put in a number and then change the date, or maybe not change the date?
I wonder if under this climate, that maybe starting new clubs is not necessarily focused, but the retention. I mean, not shy away from
I
it,
agree.
but is that necessarily something we're trying to push our clubs? I know we tried with reaching out to Fort Sumner and had a couple contacts over there, but none of them really wanted to be the ones to start up a club. And I think just coming out of COVID.
Well, there's a big push from the zone and above to create new clubs. I think that was sort of why we put that in there, but we don't have to.
And a new club could be an e-club.
Can't be.
Correct.
There are some very successful e-clubs, and maybe one of the special training programs we could do is just to make everybody in the district more aware of what is an e-club, how do they operate, what kinds of successes have they had, by learning from other e-clubs, having, e-clubs present to us.
So the notion, if we keep E, but put a number on it, the notion is that in all likelihood, E is going to be part of A.
Right.
But you all, as a district leadership team, want to keep it separate to reinforce its importance.
Right.
So it's not a standalone item. It's more of a reflection that while we think that retention needs to be the primary focus, worded here, we still want to keep our radar screen on new Rotary Club opportunities.
Right.
So if we keep E, we need to put in a number, or we should, or we take that out and just say foster the formation of new Rotary clubs and take out the second part and leave it up to Willis and his team.
I think our best bet is not just regular Rotary clubs, but like you said, alternate clubs or, you know, corporate clubs or whatever that are more
Right.
convenient for folks. And I'm not sure how to word that in there.
How about new and, what's the word, different or novel?
Innovative.
Non-traditional.
Oh, I like that. Or new including, not and.
Yes.
Okay, do we want to keep, want to come up with a number or take that out?
5% would be about 3 to 4.
In 1 year.
Mhm.
Or we can change the date.
No, I like that date.
All right, so how about 4?
Oh, guys.
Foster the formation of new, comma, including non-traditional, comma, Rotary clubs in our district and have a total of at least 4 new clubs, right?
Yes.
By June 23.
Can we do that, Willis?
You know, we've been running around the idea of Rotary Toastmasters e-club, which is in the talks right now. So
Good.
a non-traditional.
Yep. All right, so we're okay with E as it's worded? Okay, how about the whole set now?
Do the new clubs include Rotaract clubs?
There's a separate for
We have one up
Rotaract on
here
C.
just for Rotaract. Just,
Got it. Sorry.
that's okay.
Yep.
All right, so we're good on this one. Okay,
I like it.
silence is consensus. Moving on, 2 left.
That's great. Great.
Okay. So one piece of background as to why it's worded like this. So Tom Walker was in the retreat, and he was very vocal here that he wanted to emphasize diversity in our giving. And that's why it says all. He was emphatic on words like all here. So that was Tom's push in the meeting, was kind of across the board foundation, not just individual programs.
A is
So let's-
done.
I'm
I
sorry.
think priority and the objective are still valid.
Yep.
Do you want to change the time frame on the when it's going to be accomplished by?
Nope.
Okay. So we're all okay in this. Okay. A through H.
Do we
I don't
need-
really know what B means. Types of Rotarian support.
So I
What are
think
the different types?
so. I think that was going back to Tom wanting it to be the all notion that we want to track. You know, how many are supporting the annual fund, and how many are supporting polio, and how many are supporting the endowment. I think it was types of support across the different foundation programs.
Okay, all right.
that exists the Rotary International. The foundation tracks all that, and they report to the districts. That's
Right.
available to us all the time.
Yep. So it's already established.
So could we change it to use district data or use RI data to use
Track
our,
types of,
yeah, use RI data for informational purposes or tracking purposes?
I do.
That's good.
Me too.
Okay,
Yeah.
for,
And then A is done also. I have a full staff
Yep.
at hand now, plus subcommittees that we have established.
Can we take A out then?
well, I think it needs to continue though.
Maintain.
Yeah, because I'll only be here until Richard's year's done. Then there'll be a new person.
Not to go back, but can we stuff that same thing in for the membership committee?
Well, unfortunately, only John had permission to go back after reading.
Yeah, I'll say we go back and do it.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
Thank you.
Man.
You are such a glory hog, Willis.
See how I am? You can't take me anywhere.
I know. Willis, where do you live?
Roswell,
See, you know what they tried to tell me the other day? You lived in Texas. You guys, the four-way test, John Grissom,
I didn't say he lived in Texas.
who did?
All right, we're drifting here.
Yes, we are.
I just needed to establish a concept.
Got it.
do we
Okay,
need H?
So we added this up here, even though we had already agreed, and that's fine. So
Okay,
it's a friendly addition. All right.
Okay.
So back to this.
On letter C, it's kind of vague. It's not really measurable. Can you add to that? That we have a goal that every club should devote at least one meeting a year to the foundation.
Thank
Ooh.
you.
Very good.
Now, I'm not sure how you measure that.
Well, again, we've got an objective up here. 100% of Rotarians support the foundation, which suggests that if we feel like one club program per year focused on the foundation will help us accomplish this, and we're good.
And
We don't
there
have to come
is
up
a
with a-
foundation month
Right.
for those that don't know.
Okay, so let's put including promoting at least one club program per year on TRF and its
Yep.
programs.
Cool.
Is that okay?
Yep.
Cool. All right.
So
Uh,
for I, because the letter you put out yesterday, Jeff, is our focus going to be on polio in the next 3 years? Because I think we're left with what, just the borderlands between Pakistan and Afghanistan, and that's it.
We have to be polio free for 3 straight years.
Okay,
Yeah, 3 years.
so we've got 2 more years because they are polio free in Pakistan.
Yeah, if we have none this year, yeah.
But then there's Afghanistan. It keeps cropping up
right.
over and over. So Eric, it's gonna probably be a 5-year.
Okay, just making sure.
Well,
situation.
isn't there ongoing expense to keep the children immunized? It's going
Yes,
to go on forever?
well,
Yeah.
we built the labs for those of you, well, you don't want me to talk about it. He'll say I'm drifting. But yeah, we'll talk about it. Yes.
So
That-
what I'm,
That's a very, very good program we could give on Polio Day.
so what I'm hearing is we should keep it.
Please.
Okay. Any other changes to this list other than the cosmetic stuff?
Is F a foundation thing?
Yes, that's Rotary Day of Service. And actually that's why I butted in about Earl Greer. Rotary Day of Service does fall under foundation.
Oh,
So
okay.
we're
Yeah.
encouraging people to combine their Rotary
Grants,
grants, yeah.
grants.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Should we put, for example, or IE through grants, just to clarify?
Sure,
Sure. Thank you.
that made me happy.
And by the way,
District grants.
because we are, okay. Because we are crafting this document, we need to be very careful of our IEs and EGs.
Yep.
And et al's.
And et als. Yeah. This is an IE, correct?
Yes.
I did
No,
not
actually,
eat.
I think it's an EG.
EG. Yeah. There you
Okay.
go.
All right. Anything else for this list? Does the Triple Crown circle notion, is that going to continue?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. All right. So are we good with this one? We got one more, so stay with us.
Yeah. Love it.
Okay.
I was just gonna say you have an extra period with the last one.
I'll fix yeah, I'll fix all the cosmetic stuff.
Okay.
I had to take the PDF and make a Word version, and that's always a little funky. So I'll fix that. All right. This was a toughie. But there was a lot of interest in this. So again, let's start. Well, let me change the language.
A succession plan is going to be included in our operating manual.
Is that the policies and procedures manual?
Yeah, policy and procedure manual.
And it's going to be for each committee?
Yeah.
Um,
But it's, it's going to be consistent among all committees. All committees will have it. I'm not sure what it looks like, but they're including the succession plan and the policies and procedures now.
Hey, Bob, just a point of ignorance on my part. How long are district positions filled? Is it like clubs? Is it a 1 year, 3 year?
Typically, it's a 3-year position.
Okay. I should have asked before I accepted. I'm happy to do it for 3 years, but I didn't know. So that helps a lot. Thank you.
Oh, I forgot. Public image is 5.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
That's what I thought too.
I'll do it for life. I love this stuff. You just
so one thing to clarify with this one is that the group that worked on this, the initial group, thought it was one of those that was a combination of the district and the clubs, but we didn't want to put in here about club succession planning per se. The notion is that if clubs are cultivating and motivating leaders, part of the demonstration that they're doing that is that we're filling district leadership positions. So the measures and most of the language in here is at the district level, even though the clubs are included in what we're looking at as a priority. So that was how we viewed it 2 years ago.
Can I ask a question? on this plan that's being put together, I'm sure that everybody's aware of that foundation chair is not picked by the district. That's an RI pick, right? Okay.
On letter E, do you want to say something like continue to
Thanks.
promote the Rotary Leadership Initiative? Because
Yeah.
we have revitalized it.
Yes.
It's true. Yeah.
Continue, what was it again, Debbie?
To promote.
Very good.
And I don't know, would it help if we thought of some kind of significant reward for people who graduate from the, I know they get a pin, but is there something we could do that's a little more significant? The district conference, we could maybe have all the graduates come up front, and I don't know what we can do, but something to incentivize more participation in the Rotary Leadership Institute.
Take them to dinner.
So Sonny's year, I got Paul Harris for completing RLI.
Was that from your club or from the district?
I
Eric?
think
That
it was from the district.
district.
Yeah.
That was my
Yes.
points, Eric.
Oh, well, thank you. I think I have
I
two
was-
I have two Paul Harrises from you, Linda.
Yes, you do.
And I was a lucky recipient on that too. Like, Eric.
Yes.
Cool.
So how about and incentivize Rotarians who complete RLI?
Recognize.
Yeah.
Don't we get the certificates? We get the certificates, right? Because I do have one.
Yes.
Those two.
And you get a pin.
A pin.
But so is it incentivize and recognize?
Okay.
You
that
want to
okay?
pay? You can pay us.
No, since we're such a large district, it does make it problematic, but if we split it up into regions and maybe did it annually, where we take the graduates, maybe the past governors in that district, take them to dinner.
In that region. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a great idea.
And maybe we start doing those sort of things. Maybe that opens the door to there again, that mode of, interaction and whatever.
Plus,
So
it helps identify future leaders
Yeah.
because you get to know the people better, and that's a great idea.
Yep.
This is all further down, but what about even a recognition page on the website?
Yep.
Where it lists
Yeah.
all the past graduates of it, and maybe their photos or something. I don't know if it's.
That's a
Facebook.
good idea.
That's a good idea, Noel.
Okay, but again, that was one level below, correct?
Yes, it
Yep.
is.
My recommendation, if we're not going to capture here, so Dan Garrison is the district coordinator.
Mhm.
He would be, he would at a minimum be presented with this. And either Governor John or someone would work with Dan on fleshing out the detail of what he would look like.
Correct.
Okay.
I like it.
Any other additions, changes, merging for A through G? Are we done?
Yeah,
Just,
we're done.
Okay, well, okay.
Clean
before
up
I-
and send it to me for signature.
I jumped ahead. Okay, we went through 7 priorities. And we adjusted language and reprioritized things like that. Is there an 8th priority? Is there another priority that we have not addressed that we would add to this document?
There is nothing in this document right now that specifically addresses service projects. The quality, the number, the promotion of them. I don't know if we need one, but
Other than Rotary Day of Service. That is one of Rotary International's priorities, is increase our impact, which goes directly to service projects.
Right.
Thoughts?
Is there something going to be in policies and procedures?
Don't know. I don't know.
And just so you all know, on letter F here, I have found we have struggled with this a little bit because in Club Runner, there's no way to actively acknowledge Rotaract clubs, that kind of a thing. But in one of my recent meetings on the zone level, there are people there who have found a way to include Rotaractors in Club Runner manually and without making them an official Rotaract club in Club Runner, because Club Runner currently does not support that. So I'm working to bring Rotaractors into Club Runner so that they're involved, and we want to keep them involved in all of our committees if possible, as Rotaractors come up to an equal status with Rotary clubs, which is happening worldwide as well. So just so you know that.
So what are you all thinking about service projects? What should we do?
Don't most districts do, I mean, don't most clubs within the districts set their, I mean, I know like the club that I attended, we set our district service projects for every month for the year. And so everybody knew about what would be planned for the whole year. And I mean,
What about under priority number 2? We talk about templates or sample minutes. Is there someplace in there providing all just information and sharing of what a successful program is or service project? Does that fall under anything in that category?
maybe under B, ensure backup documents for management and continued purpose, and maybe provide service opportunities, provide lists of service opportunities, maybe.
So with all due respect, as your facilitator, because I'm not really a participant, the only reason I would prefer it go somewhere else is this whole priority 2 is managing assets.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think if we
Not
include
a
things like,
specific.
I think it would be better somewhere else.
Well, is there an issue with clubs not doing service projects at all?
I think there's an issue with, and again, this can be addressed by the District Service Project Committee, which we really haven't successfully launched yet. Sharing ideas for service projects and jointly having clubs jointly participate together in some service projects where it might make sense. I think we need to do more of that.
Well, Debbie,
if we-
you make a real good argument on that. Now, this year, the governor, as I think you were aware, because you attended all of those meetings, had asked under district grants to have district grants come in with a combination of interaction and collaboration with clubs. We only had actually one unit, and that was 3 clubs come together and take part in that interaction, and that was in Albuquerque. I know in some of the outlying areas, it's hard for that sort of activity to happen, but under district grants, there's a lot of challenge sometimes for special projects to happen. Now, we have lists that I can start handing out ideas that come down through RI, but that's through foundation. But I'm more than willing to share those with all of you, if that would help.
And there has been in the past attempts at creating something shareable on the district website so that people could upload their what they're doing as far as service projects, so other clubs could see what they're doing and get involved if they wanted to. I don't think it was effective, and that's why it's no longer on the website.
So as you all were talking, one of the reasons I scrolled to this priority is that what I'm hearing is that a lot of the service project role, not 100%, but a lot of the service project role at the district level is information sharing, like through the website and so on. So we
Correct.
could add here an additional item about reinforcing or sharing information about service projects at the club level and have that be part of this communication information sharing priority.
And under Bob's leadership, it has become a part of the newsletter as well. The clubs actually promote their service projects in the newsletter.
We
You know
do
where you,
in El Paso, the Council of Presidents got together. We created a document that is shareable with all the, and every secretary of each club, we post all their community projects. So anybody in the clubs in El Paso can see what's happening and where it's going to happen and at what time, and all the specifics about certain projects, and it's accessible to all of us. And the page was created, I believe it was created from the Sunrise Rotary Club. What's his name? Linda, what's his name? Mark? Matt created it, and is promoted by Jimmy Melba, which is the assistant governor. But we do share all the information with our community project.
And Ophelia's right, and they highly encourage
Mhm.
other clubs to come and participate, like if it's in gardening or downtown club, if they're ramp building, and that causes that interaction on a service project.
Mhm.
And, it's wonderful. That's why those clubs are so close.
Yep.
So,
So what about,
Could we have another priority of increasing the impact of our service projects and focus on jointness and collaboration to do so? Because all clubs are doing great service projects, but very few collaborate with outside organizations and other clubs.
Yep, I like that, Bob.
just
What
to be
about
clear,
the President's Council dialogue? Would that be an opportunity to do that sharing of ideas?
absolutely.
okay, so we have two choices. While you were talking, I typed in a sentence under the communication information sharing priority. It says, effectively share information about club level service projects to promote opportunities for collaboration. Okay, so one option is to have it be part of this. And the other option is to have it as its own priority. And if we do that, which is fine, it would take more time because we would then need to come up with objectives and similar verbiage that we have for those other priorities. So if you want to do that and make it priority number 8, it will take us more time, which is okay, to flesh out some of this if we want to follow the format.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is fine with me.
And we can, like we've done before, we can move this up higher in the list because there were other instances when if we thought something was really important, we moved it up.
Can I make a suggestion? Since one of the things we talked about was effectively staffing a district level service project committee, could we table this and suggest that one of the first things the district level service project committee does is come up with an 8th objective, an 8th priority for the strategic plan, because this is so important. As Bob worded it, especially when we talk about increasing our impact, that I think it deserves a priority all by itself.
Okay, what do you all think?
What do you mean, like create a project that will involve everybody in the district?
No, just
Would be a number
define an
of-
objective, just
Would be
define a
all-
priority for the strategic plan centered around service projects, and ask the district level committee to do that.
The only,
That's fine with me.
yeah, the only issue I have, and it's minor, is that part of convening you all is so that it's not siloed. Because you
Correct.
all have input into this, and if we delegate, and I realize we only have a half hour left. If we delegate to Earl or whoever is going to be doing this, it has the likelihood of it kind of being standalone, and it didn't go through this kind of planning process that we did for the others. Doesn't mean we can't do it. It's just that we would have to be extra proactive to make sure it's not, that it's within the framework that you all developed here today.
I think, Debbie, what you're talking about is in that word, the first 2 words there of K, effectively share.
Right.
That's going to be my and your jobs is as district leaders to effectively share that information and help Earl get that committee up and running effectively so that this can happen.
Right.
As this becomes part of our plan, then that's part of our plan. And then we're all to help Earl ensure that this happens.
Yep.
So some of this, as it appears in the newsletter, as clubs are hosting things and they promote what they're up to. So other clubs, if they want to participate, they can, or members through the district.
Right.
I know when I work on my strategic plan annually for the foundation, for the university here, I dream big. I'm an optimist, but I have to realize what can I achieve and what can I hone in on and what can I measure. And especially if some of it's just the stuff it's just the role of my office. So I don't know if I need to define everything in my strategic plan because that's why this office exists or that's why Rotary exists. So I'd say keeping it, if you want to add it. But a lot of it is what we do, and there are mechanisms I think in place to help share ideas. But we would be the ones to help make sure it gets rolled out and it's achievable.
Yep.
We just have to be careful what we're adding.
Agreed. Okay, so just to clarify, because I want to make sure we're in consensus. We added this K under the priority of communication and information sharing. Are we okay with that? And I added, as you were talking, including through the district service projects committee to kind of reinforce that.
Yeah. Jeff, since I brought it up, I will say that, yeah, I think that's an acceptable addition for now.
Cool. And this is exactly what we're looking for, because if, let's say we reconvene in a couple months, because, well, we'll talk about that in a second, but there's opportunities to make adjustments either based on circumstances or when we get to the next planning meeting for Richard, how are we doing on these? And let's say this is not working well and we decide to elevate it to a priority, it kind of reinforces that it needs more attention. So this is a continuous process. All right, I'm going to stop sharing because we have reached the end of the document. You all did great.
Excellent.
Yeah, this was
Yeah.
great. So, John and Richard, do you want to talk about next steps?
Next steps. As I was just saying about even that one item that we were talking about, it's going to be the district leadership team. Their role is going to be to take this and make sure it's happening on all of our committees. All of our committees understand this and say, yep, we got buy-in, and that's how we operate our committees. And then and Richard, I've asked Richard to come along with us and say, yeah, how are we doing on this? And I don't know if you've thought about next steps, Richard, about how often we need to check in, but that's something.
Well, what we don't want to do, and and I'm sure we've all sat on different committees or committees in our communities and stuff like this, and you do all these long range plans, and then the book gets folded and it gets put up on the shelf, and you never hear about it again until the next long range planning committee comes in. So we don't want to do that, but I think we definitely want to make sure that that our incoming presidents are aware of this stuff. I mean, this information needs to leave this group pretty soon and get to the grassroots level, where the rubber's going to meet the road. And, I agree with Debbie. And one of the most fun things I get to do when I have the time is join these Council of Presidents meetings. Those things are wonderful. That's where you learn what's going on. And you learn about all these, to me, that's where you learn about the service projects. I mean, and I know I'm going to get specific here, but I mean, you hear these presidents and they're just glowing about their projects. Ophelia, I don't remember which club in El Paso had I'm going to call it the tree ball thing, but where they were having seeds, and they threw them out, and I go, wait, what? Into a little ball, and they're planting trees that way in El Paso.
That was
And I was going, well, shoot,
yes.
sounds pretty cool, and
Yeah.
I mean, but there's just, if you're a president and you're looking for ideas, those are certainly ideas. And I think also, John, some of this stuff will permeate down to, district training sessions, as as you start putting the year together. But, and Carla, Carla, you're in a shadow. I can just barely see, you're like Tom Walker with this, I always say Tom's he can't let go of that submarine commander thing, man. He's just periscope level. But
one thing that
also,
I'm sorry,
Richard, to piggyback on what you just said, that we will roll this out to our AGs and LGs in just a couple of weeks, actually in a couple of days. And then also roll it out to pets too, for our presidents-elect. And we just continue to roll it out and continue to reinforce it and continue to, we don't want to become the strategic plan police at all. Just like we don't want to become the branding police, but there is an expectation. We want to build in that expectation that this is who we are. And this is how we're functioning moving forward.
one thing to consider, and if you like the idea, I would suggest at least Eric be part of it, and probably Danette and myself. I believe I found when I was perusing through Club Runner, like last year, there's a dashboard section. So we could, if that's true, we could have it be like Rotary Club Central for the clubs. We could have a dashboard in Club Runner that would kind of document our progress towards the goals that we just came up with.
That'd be ideal. Any other input on that? Kind of like taking our pulse every so often.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Very good.
we want to talk about action planning?
We can, yes, yes. What are the action steps we need to implement this?
So
No.
what'll happen, and I don't want to speak for the governor chain, but as it was discussed, part of the next step would be to take this and committees and others would take pieces of it and develop that level of specificity that we touched on briefly here. Like, we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and we're going to do this, and we're going to, so that level of detail needs to be documented in relationship to what we came up with today. And
The
there's-
how, the who, the when.
Yeah, so there's templates and other things that we have that will provide to whoever is deemed to be the responsible parties for each of these.
Cool.
Well, I just want to say this was a lot more fun meeting than I anticipated it to be.
That I did not do my job. Anti-fun over here.
Never forget our motto that we're not happy unless you're not happy.
Exactly right. Okay. No, I mean, you, as I said, you all were great. The ones that were not on, I wish they were, but the dynamic, the energy of the group, you all had great ideas. It was good discussion. I like that there was diversity in your points of view. I think that's really important.
Yes.
So for me, this worked out perfectly.
Me too.
I want to thank everybody for their participation. I think we made some good progress today. Replotting a little bit, resetting our sails a little bit, go back to my sailor analogies from many months ago. And I'm looking forward to seeing continued growth in our district. And thanks for all you do for me. You've been a great team to have supporting me. You're the wind beneath my wings.
Very good.
Thank you, Bob.
John, anything before we end?
I also echo what Bob just said. I thank you all for taking your Saturday and being here. It's not ideal to take your weekends, but I appreciate so much how you have. And as Jeff and I were talking about this, I actually, when we took our break, went out and told my wife, this is exactly how I envisioned this happening. So you guys, all of you are just very valuable to the district, very valuable to our district team. And I look forward to working with you in the days ahead.
Thank you, John. We do too.
Thank you all very much. And John and Richard, if you care to, and Bob, can you stay on for a couple minutes?
Sure.
Cool. Thank you all.
Everybody,
Great
Enjoy the
job.
rest of the
Thank you.
weekend.
See ya.
good stuff.
So we're not going to do like a survey or anything like that, but I got a sense that that kind of like Debbie said, this was good for them. But we always have opportunities to kind of assess how it went. What do y'all think? Part of what we also want to think about is participants. Every year we kind of go through this, who needs to be there? We need the right people. We don't want it too big and so on. Obviously, I don't know, how many people did you invite that couldn't make it, John?
2 more lieutenant governors and 3 club presidents. So 5.
Okay, now the club presidents, if we didn't have all of them, that's okay, because the ones we had were engaged and so on. So I'm not as concerned about that. But what about the committee level? Everyone joined?
Yeah, Willis was there, membership. Linda was there, foundation, and Eric, public image. That the 3 keys that I wanted there. Yep.
Okay, so I think the last time we did this, for Bob and then also the previous year for Sunny, I don't think we included the lieutenant governors. And I thought that was great. I thought that was a great addition. So any thoughts about, any other thoughts about kind of just how this went? And if we're thinking about kind of next steps, and because I do think there may be opportunities to kind of pulse the group, use the dashboard if that works, check in on the action plans.
I think maybe getting people to sign up for responsibility to accomplish certain things and having time-based milestones of what needs to be accomplished by when, and then have a check-in maybe mid-year on what's going on.
Good, good, yeah.
I think the only other thing I wanted to say, first of all, thank you all. I think the other piece of the choosing participants is we really did want to keep this strategic. And the executive secretary, as an example, is so critical to functioning, but there ought to be like a strategic overview that drives what the executive secretary does. So that would be one example of someone that we could have included, but the likelihood is that if Danette had been vocal, she would have gone one level below the actual task stuff, as opposed to keeping it high level. So that was just a thought, because previously I think we did include Danette. I think when Kathy Fuller was executive secretary, we did include Kathy, but I think the notion was keep it small and strategic.
Yep.
Any other observations?
I have one observation. Jeff, you did another outstanding job of moderating and facilitating today. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It was hard. The only part that was hard for me is because you, Bob, and I were the only participants 2 years ago. There were times when I felt like, well, here's what we thought 2 years ago, but don't, it's really up to you. But in an ideal world, I wouldn't have even had to do that because it took away from my facilitation role.
Yeah, you have much better memory than I do. Most people.
Half of it I just made up. I just didn't say anything. Okay, so I will clean that up. Richard,
I think, Jeff, that was important though. So we had an understanding of what the intent was, so that we could then decide, okay, is that what we intend, or do we intend something new?
Yeah.
Yep.
And it reinforces, we've had a lot of turnover, which is embedded in kind of how the district leadership works. And that's why it's always good to have a fresh view every year with the new people coming in. And just, I wouldn't be surprised if either Richard's year or the year after, the decision is we start over. I mean, it's like, that could very well happen. There's a tendency to be embedded in what we're starting with. But you never know. It just really depends on how dramatic things are and whether we need significant change or changes at RI. So, Richard, anything from you?
Well, I was just going to say, these should be living documents. They should grow the way the district needs to grow. It was interesting looking at not being a part of the original document. You almost got a snapshot of time of what the district was facing a couple of years ago. I mean, the gossip thing and the kindness thing, and I don't know whether anybody else picked up on this, but it was like, well, there was some stuff that must have been going on, at a level where I was not privileged to, that prompted those concerns, in that meeting. And so it's just interesting to see that was a snapshot of the district then, and maybe we've corrected a lot of that stuff. Although I still like gossiping about Bob whenever I have the chance.
There really was, and it was interesting because that first one was facilitated by Sunny and me, kind of like John and me today. And there were issues at the time, and all we did is say it makes sense to address the issues, but we're also thinking longer term. So we tried to balance is it relevant? Does it need to be addressed? It may not take 3 years to fix it, but we want to make sure that the group was focused on more than just resolving the crises that we were dealing with at the time.
Yep.
Right. Well, and and some of that comes with training too of your district committees and your district chairs and things like that. We've touched a little bit on that at the zone district, at the zone training stuff, or the DGN, the NATs and GETs and stuff like that, about and it really is about how you handle complaints, for lack of a better word, or observation, hostile observations from the district, the district members. So you can either throw fire, gasoline on the fire or water on it. So
Richard, do you need help with the action planning part with
probably, yeah.
Okay. So I need to clean up the document. I'll send it out later to everyone, including the ones who didn't participate. And then just let me know how you guys want to proceed in terms of the next level.
Okay.
Okay. What's our schedule on this, John? What do you think? Are you trying to present this at PETS?
Yes, that would be great. I'd love to present it probably next weekend at AGLG, as I said, just to, even if it's not a formal one. Just
this document, let's put it this way, this document that we worked on will be cleaned up and PDF'd.
Yep.
And I'll post it. I'll replace the current, well, we'll figure it out, but I will put it on Club Runner when you guys say go ahead and post it. So it will be in final form in the next day or two.
Okay. And Richard, you and I will have to sign it and
okay,
make it official, blah, 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 and it goes up. Yeah.
So what I was thinking is we should still keep the current one because we're still in that Rotary year.
Yes.
But maybe just add another link that said, here's the plan for next year going forward. Just
yeah, we're not throwing out the one that we have in place.
right. Okay, anything else? I got to tell you, I agree with Debbie. That exceeded my expectations. They were just great. Except, there were a few that were quiet, but generally speaking, it was very good participation.
Yep.
All right.
I was
Thank
glad
you all.
that we had some of our younger members as well participating and getting their fresh eyes on it, if you will.
Right. By the way, if I don't know if you invited him or her, but in terms of thinking about participation, maybe the Rotaract person. First of all, they're young, different point of view, but they're in district leadership. And I think it would be kind of cool to have the district Rotaract person also be part of this going forward.
Yep.
So, all right, well, I'll work on this, but obviously if you have any feedback, input of anything you discuss, just give me a call.
Good job. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Jeff.
See you in a few hours.
All